All right, here we are. Just waiting for Brandon to join and anyone else who's free. So we were talking about the QNED99. So we're going to continue our conversation here. Welcome. Happy Saturday, everyone. Welcome to Pass the Remote. This is our dedicated live stream channel to talk, ask questions about TVs and so forth. And you don't have to be stuck asking only about the QNED99, obviously. You could talk about any TVs you want. Many of you are wondering, what TV should I get? Ask it here. So we're just starting off with the QNED99 because we just recently got off of Brandon's channel to talk about the QNED99. And there he is, speak of the devil. All right.
What's going on, man?
So, yeah, I was just telling everyone, hey, this is it. This is the Q&A session. We'll talk about the QNED99 and any other TVs they may have. You're wondering about, hey, Sony versus Samsung, Samsung versus LG, OLED versus QLED, all the good stuff. We'll answer it here. And let me get this up real quick.
And I can bring in the I'll bring in the thing again if you want to put it up there,
Yeah.
We don't have to. You don't have to have it up the whole time, but I'll log in from a separate one to have the QNED back on screen.
Okay.
Give me one sec.
All right, but welcome.
Thanks for doing that too. I appreciate you jumping on there with me. Kind of weird. I had to do that review and get it done quick, and now I can do this here. What's up, Ada?
Yeah. And I have to be honest with you, I was really looking forward to the QNED99 as being an alternative to the QN90A, but not just an alternative, but maybe an upgrade, because it was a little bit more expensive. And I was thinking, wow, what if the QN90A didn't have the crushed blacks, but it got bright in the specular highlights? And maybe that QNED99 would have been that solution that did that, right? Same deep darks, but maybe brighter specular highlights. And sadly, it did not do that. Okay, let's see what you got here.
Sorry, I lost there. Can you hear me again?
Yep, I can hear you.
Sorry, I tried to bring up that second camera and the audio on my speakers. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
but you asked a question about the QNED having the good contrast ratio.
Yes, I was hoping that its peak specular highlights would be better than the QN90A because it had more dimming zones, and maybe it allowed it to do that, but it didn't. Right, blooming became a problem.
I mean, blooming becomes a problem. It does have. I think it's like kind of like what you talked about before. What were you speaking to? That the Hisense kind of like has the brightness, but then doesn't have the black level. It's kind of like hard to do both, right?
Yes.
And I think with the dimming zones, it has the potential, but it's still when immediately into gray, there's blooming everywhere though. So that's the problem. And it's like, and when you're looking at an OLED all the time, not just an OLED, but I mean, even like a Vizio OLED. I mean, it's just so much more detail up and down the line of, the tones and different colors. Thank you, bud.
I think this is a great point by Griffin and also Stent Placer. What about the Z9J? Since we're talking QNED99 8K TVs, so there are currently 4 brands in 2021 offering 8K. We have Samsung with their QN900A series. That's their flagship. We have the QNED99, which is what we just reviewed. We have the Sony Z9J, which is just launched. That's their 8K flagship this year. And we have TCL offering their 6 series 8K. And I know that Hisense is also offering an 8K. So when it comes to 8K, everyone has to remember that you have to overcome the pixel density to get bright. And in that group, the Z9J from Sony should be the brightest. Just like last year with the Z8H and the year before with the Z9G, it was so bright. Now, darkroom wasn't great. Blooming was bad. Lifted blacks was bad. But that's not what Sony was trying to do. It wanted to set a standard for bright room watching, and it did. In this case, the QNED99, it doesn't get bright enough, right? The QNED99, at best, 13 to 1400 nits. The Sony, we're talking above 2000 nits. So yeah, it gave up the dark room performance crown, but it's going to say, look, in a bright room, I'm untouchable. And that's how it was last year. So this year, we expect much of the same from the Sony. If you're looking at an 8K TV that's large and bright in a bright room, more likely than not, it's going to be the Sony. Second to the Sony will be the Samsung, although not as bright. It is a little bit brighter, possibly, than the QNED99, but not much. So those two TVs are about as bright as an X95J is my comparison. And then the Hisense, I don't expect it to be that much brighter either. Neither will the TCL 6 series get that bright. They will all be under 2000 nits or under 1500 nits. So in this group, the Sony justifies its premium because it will be the brightest TV you can buy, period. 8K or 4K, it's just going to be a torch, but its darkroom performance will be terrible. So that's some perspective for you guys wondering about 8K TVs. That's where things are headed. Oh, there you go. What do we got here?
Yeah, it's on. I gotta just.
All right. I do this, maybe. Okay, here we go. So this is the QNED99 that is on live stream at Brandon's studio there. And actually, that doesn't look bad. If you adjust the exposure, the blacks don't look terrible. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, again, it's from, hold on, I gotta mute it. I'm getting feedback. Can I mute it? I don't even know if I can. Nope. I lose my headphone if I mute it. Oh, technology.
Always technology. And thanks for this comment, Travis Sylvania. FYI, Valley Electronics does not have the QNED90 in stock yet. You're on the waiting list still. And well, let's talk about what we were talking about yesterday on Classy's review of the QNED90. So for those of you who didn't catch it, Keep It Classy Tech put an excellent overview of what he felt the QNED90. I was on his live stream and we were talking about what the QNED90 brings to the table. I like the QNED90 better than the 99, not because it performs better, but its pricing is closer to where it should be, right? Even though it's launching at about $2,000, we both believe it's a little overpriced, but around $1,500, now we're talking, because the QNED90 is better than the X90J in many respects, and especially for gaming. It is full-featured for a 4K LCD TV. It's got the full HDMI 2.1 with VRR, Dolby Vision gaming, and it has a lot of the checkboxes checked more than any other LCD TV, and that's to be expected from LG. The QNED99 is missing the VRR, and we don't know much about its Dolby Vision gaming features. So, and I don't think it's designed to be a gaming TV. It's an 8K TV, period. You have to accept it for what it is.
Let me ask a question, Travis. Why do you why are you sold on the QNED90? That would be something I'd be interested in knowing about why he's choosing this and why he's bummed that it's on. Because we had talked about it on my live stream that there are a lot of other options, and you just said that maybe the X90J is maybe better than the X90J. But for me, I feel like sometimes, obviously the dimming zones, I'm almost like I don't like dimming zones. So it's like, I wonder, I don't know. I'd have to see the X90J next to it. I'm sure this has better black, levels.
Hey, Andy's saying that your mic feels like it's a little distant. So everyone who's...
Sorry, I'm on the wrong mic. There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
This is the problem. I have the mic on my other camera is creating feedback is the problem. And I'm trying to get rid of that. I had it worked out on my other live stream, but now I'm not getting it worked out on this one. So give me 1 second and I'll try to eliminate that.
All right, no problem. So in the meantime, I'll address Preston's question here. QNED90 versus the 99, which is better? Are either better than a U8G. So definitely the QNED99 versus QNED90. It's designed to be the flagship TV for LG. That's not an OLED. So the 99 has two things that are better. One, the processor is a better processor. And two, it gets a little bit brighter. Now, whether these things make a difference for image quality, well, you're going to have them head-to-head to really find out. But the QNED90 at least has more gaming features, so that may be better for you if you plan to game Xbox Series X on it. I wouldn't choose the 99 for gaming, that's for sure, right? And if you're getting 65-inch size, you're not benefiting from the 8K. So the QNED99 is expensive, more expensive. Whether it's better depends on whether it fits your use case. Now, is either of them better than the U8G? I would choose the U8G for its deeper blacks and it's brighter. The U8G will have brighter specular highlights. It will have deeper blacks. However, unlike the QNED90, the U8G's gaming features, not much of to speak of, right? The VRR is still a work in progress, and its motion will not match LG generally. KG has had issues with motion watching more compressed formats like on YouTube and whatnot. So its motion could be better. LG's motion generally is very good this year. So the U8G is still that budget value brand. It's not perfect, but if you're looking at HDR, I would choose it over the QNED90 or 99 if you're watching streaming HDR content. Thanks a lot for that question.
How do I sound now? Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay, cool. I got the right one muted and the right one on. So no more, because my other one, I had to pick a microphone for the camera here, on the screen, and that was going off my webcam. So they're all backwards. So I got the mic here, my headphones working, I got no double feedback and all that. So I'm good.
Hey, Travis came back with his answer for you. You asked him, hey, why are you getting a QNED 90? What are you looking at, right? So he says, I need Dolby Vision Netflix, check. Great 4K gaming, check. No burn-in risk, check. Good eARC performance. That is what matters to me. The QN98 doesn't have Dolby Vision. Sony doesn't have 4K gaming right now, etc. Okay, so let's unpack this. Dolby Vision, correct. Samsung does not have it. Great 4K gaming. So let's just talk about it real quick. Sony does have 4K 120. What Sony doesn't have is 4K 120 VRR. Now, of course, if that's relevant to you, absolutely right. Sony doesn't have that working right now. Now, the Samsung doesn't have Dolby Vision. And for many people, this is a killer feature that Samsung is giving away to the competitor. So this is a good example of the QNED 90 fulfilling that need, the burn-in risk. And this is what Classy was saying yesterday. He's like, man, I don't know. I mean, it's not that much of a risk, but okay, if that's important to you. But people keep on forgetting, how much do you give up in image quality to avoid the possibility of burn-in? I'm not saying you're not going to get burn-in, but just saying that you're giving up a lot of image quality. So yeah, but that's fair enough, Travis. I think that those are good reasons to choose the QNED 90. It's not a terrible TV. And as Classy said, it's better than the X90J, which is another option people are considering for gaming.
Yeah, I would just say, like, man, for me, here's how I would say it to Travis. And he said, different strokes for different folks. Everybody can have different priorities. Absolutely agree. But if I would have to say, like, putting up all these negatives that me and Classy have been talking about with the blooming and these angles and things like that against an OLED, like, here's my perspective. I would rather have a TV for 5 to 10 years. That's perfect. Now, in my opinion, maybe it's not quite bright enough for some people, but for the most part, I think it's great. Instead of worrying about something that's maybe going to have a problem 5 to 10 years down the, yeah, exactly like Don's saying, 5 to 10 years down the road, maybe I'll have a problem with burn-in. Instead of now, I'm going to deal with these angles and these like bad blooming. And, if you're literally 15 to 20 degrees off angle, like two people on each end of a couch are going to have bad experiences with this TV. Like it makes that quick of a difference. So for me, the blooming and some of these side effects and the lack of it, the fact that it doesn't reflect it doesn't reflect light very well, are all like no-goes for me. And if it's the same price or more expensive than a high quality OLED, it's not even close. For me, it's a C1 all day long. It's their best TV under I mean, it's insane. And you can get a 77-inch for the same price as this this one. He's talking about the QNED 90.
Right. Now, the one thing that does play in Travis's favor, if Travis has never had a modern TV, meaning let's say his current TV is 8 years old, going to a QNED 90 definitely will be an upgrade. I don't think he'll be complaining. Short of if he had a Samsung KS, was it 8000, the one that was super bright, right? Then you might complain that this isn't bright enough. But short of that TV, I think you'll be getting quite an impressive upgrade if you're coming from a very old TV, simply because advancements in TVs, the QNED 90 isn't a bad TV. But if you have an OLED, you've experienced OLED, yeah, you're not going to have a good time. So what TV are you coming from, Travis? Because I think that really determines if you feel that, oh, hey, this is a better TV regardless, right?
Yeah.
And here we have a comment from Sterling Digital. LG QNED99 is a great alternative to someone wanting to keep their TV on 24/7 to protect from OLED. I agree, Sterling. I think the point I want to emphasize is we're not saying the QNED99 is a bad TV. It has great image quality, but the $3,500 is where the conversation stops. It's like $3,500. There are better options at that price, namely the A90J OLED. Like you said, though, you don't want burn-in. Okay, so now you're down to the QNED99, but then why not the QN90A? Price aside, I think the QN90A is also a good alternative head-to-head, right? Because the QNED99 is not as bright, although it may have a little bit shadow detail. So I think there's that argument, but then it has worse blooming, right? Give and take. Better shadow detail, but in certain HDR scenes, worse blooming. So maybe on SDR content, the QNED99 might be that dream TV. SDR content where blooming is not that big of a deal, it could outperform the QN90A.
Yeah, man. Some good questions here. I like it. There's a lot of good questions in this feed.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Feel free to just keep firing down that. And if anyone, like I said, by the way, I did put this on. Wait, let's see. If you want to throw up that picture just so you can see.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that. 1 sec.
That is actually way better than it really looks in person. It's way
let me
too.
throw that. Let me see. Is it this one?
It's hard. Yeah, it's like hard to figure out which one to put up.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. And like that.
Yeah, and like let's see. Like in all honesty, it looks like that to me. Well, that's what it really looks like. So I mean, it's maybe this just isn't a black screen. You know, I can turn it on something else.
I don't think YouTube meant that to be a black screen either. So that could be okay, right?
Here, like I can put one of these on and just let this roll. I mean,
oh yeah, there we go. There's some flashing right there.
You know, this is looks pretty accurate to me from what I'm seeing, and I can turn my monitor off if we wanted to.
That looks pretty good. Yeah.
You can see it. You can see it trailing there. I mean, again, I'm off angle, so that's the other thing. Mm-hmm. I'm like almost 45 degrees off angle. So,
hey, here's a good question that Classy has, and I think this was something he was dealing with on the QNED90. Hey, Brandon, did you happen to look at the really bright yellow for clipping or artifacts? He told Robert Zahn about it, and they're going to look into it. So what Brandon was talking about, and I'm going to put up what we saw yesterday real quick. Pull it out.
Ask him what he wants me to play. I don't know.
It's this right here. So I'm going to share it with you right now. See if we can put this.
I'm doing like the monitor on and off thing here. I'm like monitor on, monitor off.
And let's see.
Oh, we're so full screen. Oh, there you go.
Okay, so if you have the Spears and Munsell, it's from that image. You see that? It's from that flower image in the Spears and Munsell. So they have the little black dots. You see those black dots? Mm-hmm. So on his QNED90, it's like, what the heck is this? Instead of putting out shadow detail, you got these little black dots everywhere in the flowers. So if you can run the Spears and Munsell and get to the bright yellow, I guess, flower carnation, or any yellow scene, actually, this is an issue with the yellow. And that also includes this one. I'm going to throw this in there real quick. He had an issue with highlights clipping right here. So I'm going to put this up.
I think there is something I remember from this 4K channel. Like one of these ones here is possible that we can get something.
Not that one.
From one of these like LG videos here.
There we go. So you see here, right here, on the right-hand side, you see how it clips? That was the QNED90, right? And on the left-hand side was the LG OLED. That yellow was out of control. It was just way too bright. Ended up clipping the details. So any scene where it's HDR in the yellow and there's color detail, the QNED90 was unable to do it. Oh, there you go. Something like that. All right.
Yeah, this is probably a little too, well, that's too bright, obviously. Let me get it back to auto expose. Jeez. Let me go back a little bit. I don't know if that's yellow enough, though. That probably won't be. Yeah, that still, it looks too bright.
Yeah. You don't happen to the Spears and Muscles disc, do you?
I don't. No, I don't have
Okay. And Brad Smith wants to let you know, hey, Brandon, y'all just OLED spoiled. You never see blooming hardly in normal content. It only shows in subtitles and loading logos on games. So what do you think about that? Is this only an issue in certain content, or are we sensitive to the blooming that most people don't notice?
I mean, it could be a little column A and a little column B. I mean, here's the thing. If I have a TV in my living room or in any room, there's two situations where I'm going to watch it. I'm either going to be watching this in the dark at night, or I'm going to be watching it in my living room, and I'm going to be walking past the TV and I have a wide viewing angle and my family's all over the living room. So in either one of those situations, I notice it immediately if it's poor, right? So TVs like the Q90T, it wasn't as bad as some other TVs. The QN90A is much better. And after looking at a lot of these other mini LEDs, I'm realizing that the QN90A was really good. You know, with regards to the
right,
it still had a dirty screen, and it still is an LED LCD. But this is similar to the QN85A, where as soon as I get a little off angle, I notice it everywhere. So, I mean, it depends on what he means by normal content, because normal content could mean HDR movies. And in HDR movies, you have the widescreen bars on the top and bottom. Right. And some people see that very easily, and some people don't care about it. True. But if you get like a little logo across the screen, or you get like even just like the Netflix or the Disney Plus logos, doesn't that bother people when like the Disney Plus logo comes in the top right corner and the whole corner of the TV blooms white behind it? I mean, that's something that just bothers me.
I think a lot of people learn to live with it because they've had it for so long, maybe, right? As long as the content isn't obvious. But I agree with you. It bothers me too.
$3,500, you know, $3,500.
That bothers me. Okay, you know
$900 TV, no problem. You know, $900 TV, fine.
The $3,500 was what one of the commenters were saying. Wait a minute, plastic stands on a $3,500 TV? What's up with that? If people are
complaining about a plastic stand, they should be complaining about blooming, in my opinion. I'll take the plastic stand, and I'll take all kinds of crap. If you can give me, you know, like 1,800 dimming zones that actually work, and the algorithm works, and it's, you know, perfect. I mean, if you have that many dimming zones, there shouldn't be much blooming, if at all, around logos. It just shouldn't, you know, I don't know.
Well, in some context for those complaining about the plastic stand, the Sony X80J 50-inch that I reviewed about a week or two ago, hey, it had all aluminum stand. Go figure. It was a what, $700 TV with all metal stand? So there you have it. Hey, Michael Mendick, thank you for the question. Good evening. I currently have a 55-inch LG B10. Good TV, I think. But I am looking for a bigger TV, 7 feet viewing distance. Yeah, definitely a 65-inch. I can buy a 65-inch QN90A, 350 pounds cheaper than an LG C1. Is the lack of Dolby Vision that noticeable for streaming movies? This is a great question, so I'm going to start off with this. The difference between Dolby Vision on an LG C1 or a Sony A80J and on the Samsung QN90A is most noticeable for me on Netflix. Netflix Dolby Vision looks natural if you have a Dolby Vision TV. When Samsung takes the HDR feed and then tone maps it, they do it and make it a little bit too warm for my taste. So you'd have to go into the color temperature and maybe take it down a notch, but then that affects other colors. So with Netflix Dolby Vision, I think if you watch primarily Netflix Dolby Vision and you're used to the LG B10's Dolby Vision, you may not like it because you're coming from an LG, you're used to TV-led Dolby Vision from Netflix. This could be a deal breaker for you. So that's just something that I noticed. Now, it's not a deal breaker for me because I find Dolby Vision great. And I think the Samsung's HDR tone mapping is fine. But some people don't like the extra warmth. So that's something noticeable for you. You're going to have to look at that. What are your thoughts on the differences with Dolby Vision, if you even noticed, Brandon?
I think in general I enjoy Dolby Vision more. I don't typically see a huge difference. If you put in a 4K UHD video, it's like you put it on HDR, you put it on Dolby Vision, very similar. John Wick, I put that on. Hard to notice a difference, really. And especially when you get a TV like a Samsung that has like really crazy color, you can get what you can get. Their HDR10 Plus looks great on these movies, so I don't think it's necessary. I do think that some of the modes on different TVs, like I really like Dolby Vision Bright on Sony TVs over the custom HDR. So that's a difference, because the custom mode in HDR doesn't look as spectacular as Dolby Vision Bright does for me. So that's where I start looking at the different modes, like Dolby Vision on LG. That's still cinema versus cinema for HDR. So I don't think there's a huge difference between the LG modes. But I feel like Sony, it's just the way that their settings are, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm with that. And then when I get a Samsung dialed in, I feel like it's HDR looks fantastic regardless. So I don't always think that there's a huge difference. I just think specifically on like Sony TVs, it's like, wow, Dolby Vision Bright looks really good,
And others,
I like Preston's comment. You could always leave that up. Preston, I'm on fire now. Listen, there you go. I will fully admit right here, I'm not killing it with the technical information for this TV. I know that for a fact. It's just one of those gut feelings to me that this TV is not worth nearly $3,500. You know what? I actually have my wife's candy thermometer in here too, because it's getting hot as hell in this room right now, because this TV is so, talk about on fire, Preston. This TV is like 120 degrees. I'm actually going to pull that out and measure how hot the TV is right now.
Oh, yeah. And just a reminder for everyone, 8K TVs run very hot for the same amount of brightness. They're very inefficient because they require a whole lot more energy to get the same light output than a 4K equivalent. Just check the power consumption ratings on the TV at your retailer, right? The little yellow sticker if you're in the USA. And in Europe, you're going to look at the consumption and you're going to notice that this TV burns at least 50% more power. But the brightness isn't more. That's something you guys have to consider. That's kind of crazy. And that's why it's getting so hot over there.
And also, let me tell you this real quick. While I was standing up there above it too, I know Classy had mentioned this too, like vertically when you stand above it, I mean, it just destroys the picture quality. So if I stand up and I look, I'm just standing next to it, right? And I just like, this is something that everyone can think of. If you're standing near your TV, do you want it to retain its picture quality? I know it's not the angle that you're going to watch it in all the time, but I was just standing up there just to grab this thermometer. And that's another thing. You just see all with this IPS, you see all the negative side effects of the blooming. It's terrible. And I could take the camera up there, but then I'll never get it set up square in front of the TV here.
Now, when you say blooming, you're saying it's identical to the QN85A or worse, if you remember.
I mean, they're both not great in the fact that they look great from straight on, super, super bright, but then you go off angle and everything looks gray and the blooming just blows up everywhere. Yeah. So it's very similar. It's very similar.
And something for everyone to remember, it's not so much that Brandon hates this TV per se, it's for the price. So to be fair, the A90J 83-inch review, I think Brandon's conclusion was, no, this TV is also not a great deal, right, Brandon? So
yeah, absolutely.
It's not just the QNED99, right? You were not high on the 83-inch A90J. You thought, you know what, get the 83-inch C1 or the 77-inch A80. It's not worth that price premium. So it's not just the QNED99.
Yeah, I would tell people, anybody that asked me, I would tell them, no, I don't think that the A90J is worth it. Now, the difference is, I think I would pay a premium for the A90J. If you're going to pay a premium, if you're like, I'm down to pay extra for something because it's awesome and it's the best, I would say the A90J is awesome, but it's still expensive. It's expensive. So yeah, I definitely recommend. I recommended almost everybody to buy something else. And it's just that like there are those people that like a Lamborghini and they want it,
Right. Yeah. Which leads us to this question by Stent Placer, A90J. What Blu-ray player should I order with the A90J 83-inch? I would say a Panasonic, either the 820 or the 9000 series. Both of those will be an awesome match for the A90J, mostly because, one, it automatically detects Dolby Vision and will get you to the right format. And most importantly, it's also very adjustable. You can adjust it to either use its own internal tone mapping matching so that you can designate it as OLED, and it may make a difference. It is the one Blu-ray player that allows you to tweak its output more than any other Blu-ray player. So if you have the boku bucks to buy an A90J, an extra 100 or two and get the Panasonic UB820, done deal. So, and that's what I have for all my reviews, by the way. But otherwise, most Blu-ray players, 4K HDR, they look very similar. You're not going to be able to tell the difference. It's because you could adjust the minor details and the tweaks on the Panasonic that I like it. Well, good question there.
I see it. Yeah, I'm sure you're going to get to him. Oh, yeah.
We're almost there. We had to wait until we had enough view hours to enable Super Chat. We hope to get Super Chat up and running next week because this is a new channel. So thanks CMS for that. You're always one to support us. So we're looking forward to getting our Super Chat enabled next week. So here's an interesting comment. I just saw the X95J in person with a soundbar, the A7000. I'm flabbergasted. Now, I don't know if he was happy.
I'm guessing by the picture, it's not good, but that's what I'm saying. Like I was thinking the same thing. I like the food picture though, man. That makes me hungry. That picture of food next to that. That's quite nice.
Here we go.
YJ,
is
let me know if yes, what it's bad.
Well, I said, hey, because you love it, and he says yes. All right, we have
that
a
changes
vote
the whole opinion. Yeah.
Suddenly, the X95J may be the better option than the QNED90. So this is going to be an exciting comparison. We know the X90J is their budget entry level for Sony. I don't expect a lot of the X90J, but the X95J, lots of hype. A little bit of disappointment out of China, but if JY, you saw it in person and you're not in China, actually let us know, where did you see the X95J? What country you're from? What retailer? How large was the TV? Give us some details, my friend. That's quite exciting. So yeah, he says in person it looks way better than the X90J, and I expect it to be. So that's exciting. I'm glad to hear.
And the X90J is not entry level. I mean, X90J is still
okay. You know what? Maybe we've been looking at too many TVs.
I mean, there's like a 75, an 85. There's a bunch of them, right? So there's a bunch more down the list. I just don't want people. I know that you don't mean it's like the crap. It's like it's still a relative. It's going to be one of the more popular TVs of the year, just because it's everywhere and it's Costco and it'll be like $1,000, you know. But
right,
you know, anyways.
Don, good point. TV reviews should include a value score, price versus performance. And this is where it gets really subjective. Thank you for that, Don. So my value versus other people's value are definitely different. For example, I really value motion. And some people don't notice no motion issues. And so they'll accept slightly worse stutter than I will. And so I will be willing to give up maybe brightness for better motion. Others won't. So overall, it's really hard to get a value, but then big picture, you're right. It's easy to call out both the QNED90 and the QNED99 as, you know what, you're overpaying for what you get. That's the obvious. The less obvious is the X90J. Is $1,600 too much for the X90J? For those new to the TV scene, and the last TV they bought was $4,000 8 years ago. Wow, that X90J is such a great deal. But for those of us who are tracking the prices, we know better, right? So that's also perspective as well. But good point, though. We try to make it a point for ourselves to include our value judgment and your use case in the context of the competition today, not 2 years ago. Oh, dude, Sunny617 has a Lamborghini and he thinks the A90J is still too expensive. Doesn't that go to some of the comments we talk about where you go to a mansion and they got a Ferrari parked out in front and they're asking you why this TCL is so expensive?
Yeah, right.
I tell you, rich people, right?
I don't know if people can catch. I don't know if they can see this blooming, but I'm trying to show it off angle.
I don't see any blooming. It looks actually pretty great. Okay, I see a little bit now. I see, and it's also, of course, your exposure. I know it's hard to catch.
No, it's.
I see.
You guys are seeing it. It's like not as exposed as it really is, and I'll try to expose it more because it's not like I would say.
Oh, look! So
something like that is about accurate.
Hey, do you remember the Oppo Blu-ray player that everybody loved so much that when it went out of production, old ones went up in value to be more expensive than when the Oppo player was sold new? Are you a big Oppo fan, Brandon?
No, not really.
Okay, well, the Revon player apparently is taking its place as the boutique Blu-ray player to get, and it is now available. Thank you, Travis, for that. Check the website. You need to get your hands on that as soon as possible. Don't tempt me. Don't give me FOMO, my friend. I might just. Who knows, right? Maybe it'll be here shortly. Lance, comment is, I'm very sad right now. I have a 2009 Samsung. I was hopeful for the QNED. I have an A90J in the bedroom. Just can't see how I can do the QNED now. 83 A90J, 83-inch A90J is too much. Dolby Vision matters. Ooh, Lance, you are stuck. Have you considered maybe the Sony X95J? You know, someone out there really loves it, so that could be a possibility for you. And that leads us to any news on the X95J. So the larger TVs are out this month. They're being released. The 65-inch we expect to be late August, mid-August. Late August. So yeah, if you're looking at the X95J 65-inch, end of the month, hopefully, maybe later, the larger sizes will be available this month. So, and some people are displaying right now. So yeah, X95J, depending on your size, you may be able to get one. Okay. Brad Smith wants to know, what would Brandon say if cursing was allowed on YouTube? Yeah, I already heard it off air. It was a lot of cursing, my friend. Michael Mendick, I didn't hear the A7000, but 1,200 pounds for a single soundbar sounds kind of overpriced. Yeah, you're pushing it there. You're right. Still, I would go Sonos Arc and surround speakers, and later save some money, add a subwoofer. 99% sure that will beat the Sony. I think you're about right. That's pretty close to what I expect too. What do mini LED sets offer over full array local dimming that commands a higher price? Great question. So really quick, mini LED and full array local dimming are not mutually exclusive. Mini LED, simply you burn less energy for the same brightness. That's it. It doesn't necessarily improve full array local dimming. It doesn't make it worse. It just makes it easier for your energy consumption to match regulators. So they turn it into a fancy term. Ooh, I have mini LED. I'm going to have better image quality. Not so. It is the full array local dimming, the number of zones, that gives you the better darkroom performance. So if you get a full array local dimming TV like a Sony that doesn't have mini LED, you're not missing out on anything, because as you saw here, the QNED99 and QNED90 has full array local dimming and mini LED, but with IPS panel, it kind of ruined everything. So mini LED doesn't add much other than slightly brighter for less energy consumption. And CMS says his Kira was $3,500. You pay for new tech and quality. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Okay, JMac, this is my kind of question. What is the best stutter jutter-free TV of 2021, regardless of price? I'm going to have to say, I'm surprised I'm saying this. I would say it was easiest to get the Samsung TV to be stutter and jutter-free with minimal adjustment. I got the Sony there eventually, but I had to play through their various settings. They just have way too many settings. But ultimately, the Samsung gets you there faster, but both are stutter jutter free. And the LG, I've heard, can also get you there as well. So any of those three TVs, they've all have met my standards as far as being the best. It could get better. I mean, there's still stutter or jutter. But as far as the brands, I think you're okay with any of those three. This year, I liked how Samsung made it really easy to get there. Now, last year, I still sensed there was some stutter, and then it jumped to soap opera. This year, they got me out of stutter without jumping into soap opera so quickly. So Samsung did the Sony this year with only one toggle setting, which is their anti-jutter setting. You move it to a 3, maybe a 4, but I think a 3 gets you there without soap opera. And whereas Sony, you have to adjust, you have Cinemotion, and then you have their motion flow at either a minimum or a 1, depending on what your tolerance for the stutter is. So you have to toggle at least 2 things right there. But yeah, Samsung is my choice this year, but Sony is right there and LG is right there. The only reason they're behind is it takes a little bit more toggling to get to the same destination.
This is weird. I'm doing this Starfield test.
What are you saying?
And there's 3 of everything. There's 3 of everything on this Starfield test. Like there's at least 3 or 4 stars across the dimming zones. It's like not a star at all.
I can
really
see
weird.
blooming. I can see major.
Oh, there's
blooming.
a ton of blooming. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a tough test, but it's getting killed. Yeah, it's not working. But the thing is like I don't know. Let me try to get it really close and see if people can see it. But there's like it's 4 stars. Watch. Let's see if I can you see that?
Oh yeah, that is blooming. We can all see and touch. I think I could taste it now.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yes, Don, it's just power efficiency, not better picture quality. Yep.
And I'll do it from straight on there so people can see too. Like I want to let them see it from straight on. I can't see it now, but obviously it's better. It doesn't have much blooming, but.
And Andy has a great comment. For those wondering about flagship soundbars, Samsung's flagship soundbar this year is the Q9050A, and Andy has that, and he loves it. And I agree, it was designed to beat the Sonos Arc with surrounds. The 950A does come with a subwoofer, and Sony is only starting to make high-end soundbar this year, so we'll see if it can match the Q950A. Also, keep in mind, Klipsch is releasing their $1,500 soundbar this year. I think the Cinema 12 or 1200. So that also allows you to upgrade the subwoofer to like 12-inch subwoofers. So yeah, everyone's raising their soundbar game this year. It's exciting for all. And CMS has a great comment. Technically, could there be an issue with a combination of 8K and mini LED? It's not the mini LED, it's the 8K. So the answer is yes. 8K alone is a technological obstacle to better performance in a dark room, I think, because you have to push extra light to get it through. That extra light's going to leak. You're going to get blooming. Is that a fan on your side there, Brandon? Or a plane?
Say again? Oh, that was a plane that just went by. Yeah, sorry. I can't see. It doesn't bother me because I'm in here working and I hear them all day long.
No, I just wanted to make sure it was on your side or not.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. And that's funny.
Is the Xbox Series X or S good enough to enjoy 4K movie streaming in Dolby Atmos? And the answer is maybe. I don't like using consoles for disc playing of movies or streaming with Dolby Atmos. Doesn't always work. Sometimes it works. Remember, these gaming consoles are designed for gaming, and they're throwing those things in there as a value-added service or feature, but they don't focus on it. And if it's broken, it takes forever for it to work. So if it works, great. And if it doesn't, oh well. Don't buy the Xbox Series S believing that this is going to replace a dedicated streamer or a dedicated Blu-ray player. It just can't. But if it has it, great, but I wouldn't. So a lot of complaints there from those who've tried it with, and it doesn't always work with all TVs. So that's another thing. It may work better with one TV than another. So keep that in mind as well. And Daryl has a question for you. Hey, Brandon, don't you have an 83-inch LG coming to you soon? What's happening here? Oh, you're on mute, buddy. I can't hear you.
Gosh, I keep hitting that, man.
I hear you now.
Yeah. LG C1, right? Is that what he said?
He says, yeah, he was asking if you have the 83-inch LG coming or what's happening with the 83-inch?
I'll be getting that as soon as I get back from vacation. So I think I'm going to do a fun unboxing video on that. They're just fun to unbox these giant TVs. Yeah, I put my wife to work, make her do some of the work.
I was going to say, that's an excuse to get your wife to work. I love it.
I muted it because of the airplanes back there. That's why I muted it last time. Because the airplane, two airplanes have gone by since you said that. So yes, definitely going to have that. Going to do some videos. I'll compare the two OLEDs. I think we can assume there'll be some of the same similarities from just comparing the A90J to the C1 and a 65-inch, but you never know, and we'll see. And yeah, I mean, maybe I'm interested to see how the heat sink and how the 83 A90J, maybe it performs even better than a 83-inch C1 because of the power and consumption and all that. So who knows? But
definitely the heat. Let us know with your little temperature, because some people have been complaining it gets way too hot and the room just heats up like a bee.
Well, I'm telling you what, this QNED behind me is way hotter than the A90J. I mean, this thing is that I couldn't get the temperature gauge to work, but it's not. Those are called thermometers,
Right.
by the way. Temperature gauge.
The temperature. Yeah, right.
Temperature gauge. That temperature heat gauge thingy called a thermometer. It is hot as balls over there. It's like it's got to be 100+ degrees. That screen.
That's crazy.
Right here behind me.
That's crazy.
Because I touched it and it's like hot to the touch. So if you touch your arm, which is 98 degrees, it doesn't feel hot to the touch.
And just for context for you guys out there, a 65-inch TV that gets that hot, it would literally heat up your room in less than an hour. I know I have like 4 TVs that I keep on all the time because of the way I do my reviews, and that room gets hot. It only takes maybe 15, 20 minutes to get it hot, but this TV sounds like it will heat up your room pretty quickly. So you're going to burn through some AC bills. Just keep that in mind. And Shibin has a question, and I can tell he watches this a lot because he gives me just enough detail to answer his question. X95J or QNED90 or A90J, 4K, 65-inch size, 7 hours of use daily, but normal room lighting, movies mostly. So when you say movies mostly, OLED is in the picture, right? You have no burn-in risk because you're going through different movie content. Then the question is, well, if you could afford the A90J, it's on your list, I'd go with the A90J, period. It will give you the best movie quality of those 3 you just listed. So, yep, answered, A90J, 4K, 65-inch. Have fun. Let us know how you like it.
And if he wants to get a 4th option that he didn't even ask about, the A80J, save $1,000.
Yep. Hey, keep it classy. And I know I've been on this. I want a G1, and Value Electronics is so backed up in their inventory. I honestly don't want to take away from any of their customers that are getting the G1, because I know if I asked for it, he would just rush me up to the front of the line. And the reality is I'm just getting it to review. And you guys have done such a great job reviewing the G1 Classy that I'll wait until it becomes available and I'll get it when I get it, because each time I ask, it's like, I know it's destined for a client. So you know what? I'll let it go. And at worst, I'll just might have to get it on Black Friday or holidays. If you notice, it's still sold out on many of the retailer stores. It's a popular TV. It's a great TV. And I don't game enough to say I need it now. So yeah, I'll get it when I get it. Who knows? But I will be getting the Hisense U7G next week and the X95J. I think I'm going to try and get the professional TV version that they're offering through Value Electronics. I want to see how much that is, but that's something curious that I'd like to try out. So that's kind of in my sights, and of course the dual cell. As soon as that's available, I want to get that as well. And Andy says, "Hey, that blooming Starfield test is pretty bad. Was it as bad as we saw it, or was it worse, Brandon?"
Honestly, it was worse here. It's worse. I'm trying to show you. It's hard to see blooming without raising the ISO. So I definitely had the ISO raised. But when you're here with your own eyes, you can see both the black level and you can see the blooming. So it's bad. It was as bad as you guys saw it or worse. Definitely.
Yeah. And JMac, hey, FOMO, any true cut update to eliminate OLED judder? Nothing recently, but thanks for reminding me. I'm going to reach out to them. I've been so busy since then. So yeah, I'll reach out and see what's happening over there. And Kevin wants me to try VR to watch movies. And my response is, I don't want to throw up. I mean, I'm sensitive to motion. And I know one of the big deals with VR is motion issues. But how about you, Brandon? What's been your experience with VR watching movies? Did you like it?
I haven't done it, but my kids really want to get an Oculus. So I don't know. I don't know much about it, but can you download movies onto the Oculus?
I have no idea. Hey guys, if you guys are doing the VR thing, let us know. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And what did CMS say it was not good? I'm trying to figure out where I'm going back up. He said it's out. Brandon had one and blooming was awful. Disappointing is an understatement. I'm trying to go back. Well, maybe CMS can tell us. I don't know what he's talking about.
Here's a great, for those who just arrived, because I know we set this live stream for 1:30 and suddenly we've been on since 1 o'clock. So we started early, but we're still running, guys. So if you missed it, we did a quick QNED review, the QNED99, as a follow-up to what we've been talking about before then with Classy, which was the QNED90. So now both have been reviewed by Classy, then by Brandon, respectively, right? So Bill says, what's going on with the QNED? I don't want one See, I don't want one, just curious about it. So ultimately, they're both overpriced. They're not terrible TVs in the sense that they look good, but at $3,500, the QNED99 does not deserve that price point. It is not a flagship. Blooming was hell, as you just saw, and the QNED90 wasn't that much better. They're both IPS panels, and I think that's part of the problem. So if you look on paper, the specs look great, right? Not over 900 dimming zones, and that would be the best in its class, but deep darks with blooming issues takes it off, and it looks very much like what the QN85A was our conclusion, right? It's like a Samsung QN85A, but you're paying a whole lot more for it if it's the QNED99, and the QNED90 doesn't get as bright. So if you want a dimmer version of the QN85A, you got the QNED90, but they both have gaming features, Dolby Vision, that Samsung doesn't have. So the QNED would be the Samsung alternative of the QN85A with Dolby Vision. I don't know. That's someone's use case out there.
Yeah, and also, Hammer just reported lately, the last thing too, that LCD DSE can also be objectionable too, which I believe that it wasn't very clean. I think in general, I feel like LG's LCD panels are typically just kind of hit and miss. They're just kind of they're not like super like a streak down the middle all the time. They're just kind of blotchy and vignetting, and so you get that combination of blooming and a little bit of, the dirty screen across the board. And then some of the older, nanos weren't quite as bright, or maybe they were straight on. And you just kind of, that's kind of what my opinion is of this TV is there's just kind of a lot of cringiness around a TV that you really just want a clean HDR picture or clean gaming. And it's just, that's not I can't accept that for that kind of money. And for me, it's not even about whether I like OLED or not. It's whether it's the technology. If the only downside is you concerned about burn-in, that doesn't mesh with me, that is worth throwing an entire OLED industry out the window because you're worried about burn-in,
Yeah. Well, speaking of OLED, great segue. Thank you for that. CMS asks, with the shocking release of QD OLED, any predictions on price? So we're talking that Samsung has announced, or at least strongly hinted, that they're going to introduce QD OLED at CES, and I predict it would be expensive. So my prediction is that it will be priced above the Sony A90J. So let's say next year, the A90J 65-inch, and it'll come in a 55-inch size and 65-inch size. So my prediction for, let's say, the 65-inch size, if the A90J is $4,000 at launch, the QD OLED would probably be closer to $5,000. It wouldn't be a lot more than the A90J, but it's still very expensive. They want to price this as the next generation flagship. Now, whether it ends up being a disappointment is a whole other matter, but definitely they're going to price it above the A90J, in my opinion, because it took a lot of money to develop this technology. They're using all new technology, not sure with anybody else. First use of quantum dot color converters, first use of stacked OLEDs, 4 layers deep of blue OLED only, and then they have to find a way to bring that all together with all new processing. That's a lot of money they're going to have to amortize over the cost of this TV. So I think even at $5,000, it may end up being a break even for them, a loss leader. I don't think they're intending to make money on this TV as much as show off that they could beat LG. So that's my prediction. It may end up being more than 5,000. I'm hoping it's 5,000 or a little less. And here's one that everybody wants to know. Do we think Samsung will ever get Dolby Vision? My answer is, the way things are going, no, with the exception of gaming. Samsung may introduce Dolby Vision gaming because they are the exclusive brand partner to Xbox Series X, and we all know the Series X announced Dolby Vision gaming, so how ironic that Samsung can't support it. So if it does introduce Dolby Vision, I think it would be limited to gaming in Dolby Vision, but even then that's a stretch, and I don't think Samsung will introduce Dolby Vision maybe for another 2 years, because I think they want to push HDR10 plus still. I see it, I see what they're doing, and there's still some momentum at Samsung to push HDR10 plus.
Let me ask a question real quick while we're waiting. A lot of people here are like, they like live streams, and if you guys could hit the like button, that'd be great.
Yes, please.
When you get an opportunity, just hit it real quick. What do you think? I mean, I know you and I talked offline about this TV, and I appreciate you talking me into giving some information on the QNED, even though I was kind of bummed about it, right? So
Yep.
I think it can help. But I want to ask people that are here, would people still like prefer a full-on review even if the TV sucks? Like, would you guys watch a full review even if I'm not like trashing it like some people do where they just like they like it and then they trash it just for the sake of it? But I mean, like, just go all negative. Just, I mean, give you the good and the bad, but it's mostly bad. I mean, would people prefer that? You know, I guess I can look at it from the perspective of people that are going to still need an LCD TV. You could always look at it from the perspective of maybe I'm a buyer that doesn't like OLED. So I could look at it from that perspective. But it's hard for people, or for me anyways, to think positively and give a positive review. And it's hard for me to go, okay, here's the SDR, and here's the HDR, and here's gaming, if I know it all looks like crap in my mind. You know, like, how do you do that? Yeah. So I just want to know what people like this, like, for Dano's perspective, this was saving my time. This, you know, the live stream, FOMO talked me into it. I thank him for that. Got a quick 30 minutes, gave my, you know, very basic info. I threw together a little unboxing and setup on you know, Premiere, and threw that in the beginning. So, hey, but I mean, you should still do a review and just give the negative and then post it so that people down the road can see it. It's just hard for me to do. You know, I don't know. What do you think, FOMO?
And I'm in the same boat as you. If I have a product that I've bought or they've sent me to review and I don't like it, meaning I can't get my heart behind it. If I can't think of a use case that gets me excited, because no TV is perfect, so let's get out of the way. But if there is not a use case where I can say, wow, this I can get behind, it's hard for me to create a video where I don't have genuine enthusiasm. So as you can see, most of my reviews, I'm genuinely enthusiastic about some aspect of that TV. And after seeing yours and Classy's, I'm just imagining my genuine enthusiasm would end up being SDR content for either TV or gaming, but there's the LG OLEDs. And I know I'm enthusiastic about how well they did. And then to choose a TV that we all know would be second or third choice, it's hard for me to get that same level of enthusiasm. So it ends up being tepid and warm. And it's unfair to LG that I'm just doing another Me Too review that really doesn't have that energy behind it, because there are other reviewers. Well, and I'm going to have to use Caleb Dennison. I love the guy. He's excited about everything. I cannot get that same level of energy up. And it's genuine. He really loves TVs. So I would defer to Caleb's excitement about the QNED99 because I know he has that. And then I'm going to say, okay, I see his angle because he really works hard to find, this is why I like it. And he focuses on that. Remember the TCL 85-inch? This is why I like it. Like, oh, he found something he loved about the TCL. All right. So yeah, maybe I don't work hard enough to find that angle.
Oh, you work plenty hard. Come on. I think there's just a lot of different ways to look at it. Like, you and I have talked, like, I'm to the point where I will review a TV. It doesn't matter the quality. I'll review it. But I get to this, and I know that we all know that FOMO's a news guy, man. I mean, he brings the news. He has great angles, great storyteller, great reviews, great everything. But we all start to kind of move into like what makes us motivated to keep working and doing this. And so I think you get excited about future technology and comparing like high-end stuff and figuring out things. I like what people are saying though. You know, reviews can be good or bad. I think, I did like a 5 worst things of the LG C10. And to be honest, they were all like silly things. And I got torched. People were killing me, just like calling me names. And so I got like 50-50 up thumbs and down thumbs because, realistically, there's not a lot of bad things. But at the end, I said I still love the TV and I'm glad I bought it and I wouldn't trade it in. So I don't know why people are getting so mad about it. But I could see the perspective of like the Samsung one that I did, like the 5 things I disliked about it, where basically it was an all bad video. It was like all these things pissed me off. I think that's probably what I should have done. And maybe that's something I still will do. Like, because people are saying in the comments, they need to learn their lesson. They need to, I agree with like Bill Hubbard. They don't care about their LED. I mean, they're trying to put 8K, but can you really say that they care about this stuff? The LCD is like cutting edge anymore. You know, I mean, we had talked about that last year or 6 months ago, that it's just LCD's running out of time. It's running out of ways to improve, and the cost isn't getting any less. So an OLED, I mean, you know, the OLEDs are to the price where you could go through an OLED in 5 years, and if it had burn-in or something, which I don't even think that's really, you know, a major risk anymore. I just think that the 5 years, it'd be great getting 5 years out of a TV. People are really high expectations. I think they're going to get 10 years out of any TV these days, whether it be LED or OLED, you know?
Well, that's what they did in the past. Remember, we kept CRTs for 10 years easily, right?
Yeah.
And now, Sean Coombs does have a question. I need a bright TV, so I can't get an OLED at this time. I have been waiting on the QNED before picking from the sounds of it, the QN98. Great choice, Sean. Too bad we don't get the QN95A. Agreed. I would love to have 4 HDMI 2.1 ports on that little connect box, but the QN98 image quality is the same as the 95A, assuming they both have VA panels, because I know some regions have a version with an IPS panel, if you could believe it. Can you believe that they try to throw an IPS panel on the QN9 and pass it off as a flagship? That was pretty upsetting for many people.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that frustrates me. Yeah, like that.
In Europe,
you know,
it's crazy. So that's a great choice, Sean. So just remember, the OLED will get you the brightest, small, tiny highlights. The QN90 cannot. It just, no LCD TV can do it. But overall, if you need brightness, SDR brightness, you couldn't have done better than the QN90A. So good choice.
Yeah, and even in the brighter scenes, you know, with the HDR and the QN90A, it's really good. It's just, it's really like it's when you're trying to put like a black screen up and then you got like little highlights, that's where that you know, that dimming algorithm that really suppresses those highlights. But for the most part, it does have great, you know, great picture quality.
It does. It does. And Joe has a question, debating between the Onkyo RX NR7100 and the AVR X3700H. Just based off the specs, which receiver is the better option? I normally prefer Denon overall, even off the specs, because I feel that Denon, it's the way everything's put together in Denon is really easy to use. Now, I haven't used an Onkyo recently, so I have to be fair there. I've been using mostly Denon products because not only is the Odyssey room correction system very easy if you have the app, but I feel that its amps are way underrated. Its amps can drive most speakers that most people will use. So the Onkyo, though, is full featured generally. So just keep this in mind. If they both have Dolby Atmos and they both run enough of the speakers that you need them to run, they should be okay. But then the Odyssey, I think, is going to be better, unless you're getting the Onkyo that has Dirac, which I don't know if this one does. I know Onkyo has 2 models this year. I think 1 at least. That's around $1,000 with Dirac. I would defer to the Dirac before I'd go with Odyssey because it's more trouble-free. So if the 7100 has Dirac, I'd go with that one, just because it's easier to get it accurate in your room than with Odyssey. But that'd be the only reason I'd get the Onkyo. So I don't know if that answers your questions, but hopefully. Hey, Brandon, are you dealing with fanboys on YouTube?
You know, you get a lot of, I try to respond to all my comments. You know, it's hard to, but sometimes I'll just get time and I'll just bang through like 100 comments. And, you know, it's like 90% positive and you get 10% people saying you don't know what you're talking about. And then you get like 1% people just being rude. But, you know, it's funny. YouTube kind of deletes a lot of the bad comments before you even get to see them. So you'll get someone that's like, this guy doesn't know. And it's like ... And you got to click on it to hear more. And I want to see what they're saying. But then when you click on it, it said this comment is no longer available. And it's like, damn, I wanted to see what that idiot said. Like I wanted to respond to that, you know, because I don't normally delete comments,
right?
Unless it's like people fighting back and forth, then I'll just delete the whole string.
Right. Oh, you know, that's a good reminder, guys. So, you know, we're trying to keep our community toxic free, and we don't always catch the craziness that happens in live chat. So if, you know, someone's out there and they're being disrespectful to you all, because, you know, you guys are regulars and we know you guys are here for the talk and the fun, but every now and then you have people who are new to the channel and they bring in a little bit of toxicity. Let us know, and we'll make sure to clean that up because we're here to help each other. You know, we're not fanboys of any brand, as you can see. Every TV has good and bad, and we want to call it out to fit your use case. As long as the good is what you're looking for, hey, we're right behind you because there's a use for the QNED99, just not at $3,500, right?
Yeah, and if you want to put on the stent Placer had a comment just now about the Mantle Mount that you
Oh,
were going to
yeah,
get. So he's
yeah,
same as you. So why don't
yes.
we just talk about that real quick?
Yeah, let me jump on that. Right here, yes.
So yeah, that's the same mount that FOMO's actually getting. So he's going to have that same TV on that same mount, and he's going to do that because then he can pull it down to like eye level and do reviews, and then put it back up and then put a TV under it. So if you're going to put it above a mantle, a lot of people that get those are very happy with them. My only drawbacks for the Mantle Mount is that you have it sits off the wall a bit. So if you walk by the side profile of your mantle, it's not as good as if your mantle is in the end of a room. So if your TV is at the end of a room and that's where the fireplace is, and you're not going to walk by the side profile, then it's fantastic. But it does sit like out pretty far. So your front of your TV can be out as far as the mantle. And so if you have a sound bar, I mean, as long as you don't mind that, that's fine. It has a handle underneath it that you can pull it down. It's an installation. It's a process. You have to find an installer that can do it. It's not the easiest mount to install. It takes a bit of work. And you have to have a stud kind of centered or have two studs because you can't put that up on drywall only. You know, you'll rip your wall apart. So there are some things to look at.
Yeah, and I want to jump in real quick, though, because I know you haven't said it yet. Are you an authorized Mantle Mount installer?
Yeah, I mean, I do it in California. I mean, I think you just basically put your name on a list and they'll take you. But
how many have you installed? How many have you done?
I've installed probably like 50 of those.
Okay, see, stop right there. That's all I need to know. And this is why Brandon is doing it for me, is as a favor, right?
Yeah.
I asked him, hey, you know this? He goes, yeah, I've installed 50. He goes, what, 50? Dude, I'm not going to trust anyone to do it except you, right? Because this is something, you know, it's an 83-inch TV. If we want to get it done right, this is not a cheap TV. And the Mantle Mount I found to be the perfect one that fits my use case, and it's incredibly sturdy. It's built for these size TVs. Yeah. It goes up, I think, to 125 pounds of weight rating. And so that's why I chose it. And then when it turned out Brandon has installed 50 of these, it was a no-brainer for me. That's why he knows so much about it.
Yeah, and also when you pull it down too, you can turn it left and right too. So it's kind of cool. So like while it's over the fireplace, obviously you can't turn it right or left because you're going to hit the wall. But when you pull it down and you can pull it down to any level, you can adjust the pressure and you can put it to where you want. It'll stop at a certain point. And then you can kind of turn it left and right and get cool angles. You can put a pin in it so that you can like take the TV off and on pretty easily. And it won't like the arm won't slam back up. But like pulling that arm down the first time with your hand without the TV, it's not easy. Like you got to have some strength. And putting it on a stud or two, like I know your wall is not going to be over a fireplace specifically, so it'll be a little easier. We have a little bit more wiggle room.
Well, you bring up a good point. They have a mechanical version or a motorized version. So for those who don't want to pull it at all with a remote, boom, it'll go up and down. It has automatic settings. I'm tempted to go there, but I don't think I will. I can't stand things that break down. Now, BatTech has a great comment. If Samsung would tweak their local dimming, they could retain more detail without crushing things so much. Sony does it better. So here's something to think about, BatTech. The U8G is exactly that. They tweak their local dimming. So their blacks don't get as deep as the Samsung in certain scenes, but in return, they don't crush the images as much. So that high sense is the Samsung with that solution that you mentioned. Also, on the Samsung, if you go to enhance contrast, you take it to low, you do bring out some of that detail, but then your blacks become lifted. So yeah, with LCD TVs, and that's why Sony has lifted blacks slightly, right? They're like, wait a minute, why should we add more dimming zones? We end up crushing the blacks. You know what? Leave it at 60. We'll lift the blacks. We're good. And so Sony just concluded they don't need the deep blacks. And that's ultimately what Samsung tried to do, is they give you the option of crushing the blacks to get super deep blacks, but losing detail, or go to enhanced or go to black detail, play with those options, and you bring it back. But then it ends up being a Hisense U8G. So that's something to think about. And yes, that's the Onkyo with the fixed HDMI 2.1. It's the one with the Dirac, and apparently that's the one. So yeah, in this case, I would choose that Onkyo with Dirac. I really do like Dirac a lot. Yeah, that's the one. Yep, and it's $1,000. So here's a great AVR. It is the least expensive AVR you could buy today with Dirac room correction. Remember last year, Brandon, when all we could talk about was wait until 2021. Everything will work better. This year,
Right.
the TVs are actually awesome without having to wait until 2022. I'm actually predicting they're just going to carry it over into 2022. What's there left to improve, right? The TVs were released so late. Can you imagine the X95J comes out in late August and suddenly, oh, look, guess what? 6 months later, we have a 2022 model. I think they're going to kind of rinse and repeat next year. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like that's kind of what they were doing this year. Then I wonder if they got into like chip shortages or if they got into like, okay, we have a very similar, TV from the X950H. Maybe let's throw a different like mini LED like panel like lights. And I don't know what the technology is that they changed, like why it would take so long to get this TV out, because seems like it's very similar to last year's. But for everything else, like I'm very impressed with the LG processing this year on their OLEDs. The LG processing looks a lot better. I'm really a big fan of the A80J. I almost feel like it's a good improvement over the 8H last year of the Sony's that, kind of after the A9G, they brought out the A8H TV, which was not quite as bright, but still good. And now they have the A80J, great OLED. A90J with the heat sink is awesome. There's a lot of good stuff. I think, I really think that's awesome. Again, to Classy's point, I think I'm totally fine with the OLED SDR. Like I think about it all the time, especially when you think about the level of detail on the SDR for the Sonys too. That the level of detail is amazing. I mean, that you can see everything, shadow detail all the way down. I think that looks fantastic, and that's why I can see and have a perfect contrast, perfect black, and only be up to that 400 nits or whatever. And I think it looks fantastic because even if you get some of these other TVs, like I have the Samsung frame behind me I've talked about before, it has 500 nits or so in SDR, but the problem is the contrast ratio is not very good at all. So then it doesn't look as bright as an OLED that goes from 0 up to 400 nits. This is you just don't, you get grays on the frame up to 500 nits and it just doesn't look as dramatic. The contrast isn't there.
Agreed. And that's something, and I'm glad Classy mentioned it. Now, I have been under the impression that OLED has a hard time hitting 400 nits SDR, but if they're hitting 400 nits SDR regularly and the model you have does that, absolutely, that really is all you need. If you're in a super bright room and you need vivid mode to break through the light, that's a whole different matter. But for most people, absolutely, that should be enough for SDR. And as context, most TVs in the 90s had 100 to 150 nits for SDR content. So if you had a TV back in the 80s and 90s, you were less than 200 nits in SDR, my friend.
And I think he just means like the smaller windows, right? Because that's what like we for the most part, we're getting the smaller windows in that range, 10%, 2% windows for SDR. Because like, full screen or real scene, it's like 150, 200 to 250, right?
Right. Yeah. Is that what you meant, Classy? I don't know.
I think that's probably what he meant. I mean, like the C1 gets like 415 nits, 10%, full 10% and all that. Which again, like, I think that's bright enough. There are many times, I hear people say, oh, I have an OLED and I have to have the brightness at like 40 or 30%. And I'm like, that to me, that sounds crazy. But in SDR, when I'm watching it at bedtime and like I'm going from a dark movie and then I turn on like Sports Center at like 2 a.m, I'm like, damn, that is bright. It depends on how your eyes are reacting to ambient light. But if you're in like a bright room, of course, it's not like, 400 is not a killer amount. It's just that SDR is fine there. And the benefits of the HDR and the contrast are definitely outweigh a lot of these other problems we get with LCD.
Right. And here's a question follow-up for you with Mantle Mount. Do you recommend the entry-level standard MM340 Mantle Mount at $200 for the 65 and 75-inch TVs? Brandon.
Let me double check on that. I'm going to just double check because I know for the most part, I can get it up in like 10 seconds here. Yeah, no, all the Mantle mounts are fine. Like they're all fine. They're really good mounts. I think the only difference with the ones that go up is that it has a little different backing to it, the one that goes up, and it has the soundbar mount. Right. So if you want the soundbar mount, that's the Pro or the more expensive one, the 540, I believe. This one's great. I've used it all the time, up to 90 pounds. So it can hold 90 pounds. So,
easily.
Yeah. You can't get, I mean, if it's rated for 90 pounds, I normally am like 75 pounds is all I'd want to put on it, because they don't always hold the amount that they say they're going to. So, technically, will it hold it? Yes. Would I put a 90 or 100-pound TV on that one? No. So, definitely like a 77-inch A80J, because those TVs are pretty light. But you're looking at least the 540, right? Which one are you looking at?
Here's look at the 200. Oh, I'm looking at the
740.
Yeah.
No, the MM540 is the one that holds up to 90. Well, that also holds up to 90 pounds. And I believe all that has is like, it has some covers for the mantle mount. Here, if you want, maybe I can actually share this. That way I can.
Yeah. Because the one mine is rated for like 120 pounds or something like that. Because I know that the 83-inch A90J goes up to 115 or 110 pounds, and that was important.
Yeah. So this mantle mount is the 540, and it has these white covers, and it has the sound bar mount underneath it.
Yeah.
And when I went back,
that's a good one.
I was at the 340, which is the one he was asking about. And that's a more basic. It doesn't have the white covers, I believe. And the white covers are kind of a pain in the butt anyways. They just fall off. They don't really work. So who cares? I mean, behind the TV, when you pull the TV down, that's another thing about the mantle mount. When you pull the TV down, you see the black bars behind it. Like you see the bracket behind it. So, but like I said, everybody that gets this, for the most part, they really like this mount. It just, because that arm is so fat, when you have it all the way up at the top, the TV is like 6 to 8 inches off the wall. So then if you have a 2 or 3 inch thick TV, you're talking about the front of your TV being 9 inches to 1 foot off the wall. So when you put that over like a 6-inch mantle, people are like, why does the TV stick out so far? So that's the only downside. But for the most part, those mounts are pretty nice.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I thought was the first I heard of it too. So I'm glad we found that, because I think that's helpful for a lot of people who want to put their plasma or their LCD plasma or their OLED on top of a fireplace, but that's because they have nowhere else to put it. This allows it to go down above or in front of the fireplace, then you push it above it when you don't need it, and that's just perfect for most people, I think. And the price is pretty reasonable given what you were just showing. I think this is a great question by Mustafa. What killed plasma? And one answer was that it didn't do 4K yet. Another answer was LCD TVs were so cheap as well. The production cost of LCD TV resulted in very competitive TVs that were super thin and used less energy than plasma. So a lot of people thought the LCD TVs were the better buy, and that made it hard for plasma to stay relevant. So you combine 4K with competitive pricing on the LCD TV together, that really made it hard for plasma to stay relevant, because then for it to take that next step, it just took too much resources and R&D to get there. So, yep. And that's where we kind of are right now with LCD TVs. With OLED going down in price, it's going to take a lot of money to keep it relevant, because right now it's just kind of circling the same performance points that we've had for years, which is specifically around 1600 nits, 1500 nits brightness, right? That hasn't changed much. And you're going to get crushed blacks or lifted blacks, or you're going to lose some of the specular highlights. We'll keep on circling that for the next few years. That's not going to change.
God, I have so many windows open.
Yeah. And here's some additional information. So Pioneer got out of the market, but the Pioneer engineers went to Panasonic, and that's why Panasonic's picked up the quality or the actual image of the Panasonics the last 2 generations were because they picked up the Curo engineers and they continued with plasmas for as long as they could. So that's why those were the last 2 best brands of plasma. Are Panasonic OLEDs brighter than Sony and LG, and how much brighter? The answer is yes. How much brighter? I believe it's about peak brightness in real content, maybe 100 nits over the Sony A90J, maybe 150 above the Sony A90J, and then between the Sony and the LG, we're talking a difference of maybe 80 nits. It's not Sony and LG, it's not that noticeable. Now, between the A80J and the C1, it's noticeable. But between the A90J and the A80J and even the G1, we're really nitpicking the specular highlight. And that's where the brightness comes in. And that would also apply to the Panasonics. Their specular highlights will be a little bit brighter. And yeah, it's noticeable, but I think in real content, that's not a reason why you should get a Panasonic. It should be the other stuff that comes into play, because overall, they'll look very similar in my opinion.
I don't know why I got too many streams going on, but I have to keep refreshing our live stream, the one, so I can't see comments. There we go. I can see the comments. Oh yeah. It's weird. It keeps doing it. It's just like every time. It must be my internet speed, because I have this Orbi here, and it sure is not the Orbi. Trust me, that thing is a beast.
Yeah, how is the Orbi working out for you?
I love it. I'm going to do a review on the Orbi. I'm probably going to say get the I might get the one below this, where it's like half the price, because this is $1,000 for a Wi-Fi system is crazy, but still.
So this is a great question. Where's Techno Dad? And believe me, we want him on our streams, but he's been really busy. So as you all know, he is also a DJ, does a lot of events, weddings or whatnot, and that's his full-time love and full-time job. So once the pandemic lockdowns were lifted, did I say something wrong? I don't want to be censored by YouTube. Once the P word was lifted, what happened is suddenly all those pent-up weddings and parties and proms, it all came. They all called him up, and he's got work up the wazoo. So he's been really busy, and that's why we had him on live stream, because he didn't have a lot to do. Right, we're all in lockdown, and now that he's busy again, we're fighting more important priorities. But yeah, he would love to come on, and sometimes he hops into these chats and says hello, and we could ask him, hey, when are you free next? But I do try to get him when he's available. The problem is on weekends. That's when a lot of his events are, and it's family time for him as well. But I'll definitely let him know that you guys miss him.
Yeah, Chana D, he's good. He's a good guy. Mustafa Papa said, "Be the installer. Are you comfortable with the blooming behind you?" But I mean, if you look in the picture behind me, it's like
the one below, right? Same thing.
Look at the one below. I mean, that's obviously that's an ISO difference. It's a exposure difference. I mean, again, straight on, I would say this TV is fine, good HDR, but I just don't think that having great HDR is anything to write home about when it's a $3,500 8K TV, because something like the 900R or even the new QN900A, those TVs have the same crazy bright screens. And even though the QN900A didn't score as well as the Q90A did, I would venture to bet that this LG QNED is not going to score as good as either one of those TVs. So, the different angles, the ISP pattern, all that, not a big fan.
And Daniel has a great question. I'm in the market for two 80-inch TVs. One is definitely OLED. The second will be 8K, between the Q800A or the QNED99. I would go with, this is interesting. So Q800A is Samsung's 8K TV. Dolby Vision is the QNED99 strong point. It has Dolby Vision. The Q800A doesn't. Ask yourself that question. Is Dolby Vision important to you? And also the Q800A, I believe, is a VA panel. So with the VA panel, you're going to get better native contrast and better color saturation head on. So I'd probably go with the Q800A, even though it doesn't have Dolby Vision, because I appreciate. But then the QNED99, its contrast wasn't bad, but then you have blooming issues, right? I go with the Q800A because of the VA panel. What are your thoughts about that one between those two?
I would say the same, but I would just want the screen on the Q800A would have to be a clean screen. That's the only thing.
Yes.
So for me, I couldn't buy an LCD TV. I think that's where I would definitely use Value Electronics to help quality control the TV. If you could get it out of the box and have them calibrate it and look the panel over and make sure it wasn't garbage, I think that would be worth the money. Because I know you can knock out some of the uniformity issues on an OLED by doing the pixel refresh. but there's no such cure for an LCD panel.
With dirty screen, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's there forever. And
Yeah.
start learning to fall has a great question. I have a living room with bright windows and glare. That's key. Thinking about an X95J, am I going down the right path? Looking at a 65-inch, but that size doesn't have the anti-glare coating. So at the price,
I think it does. I think it does,
right?
Yeah, I think it has an anti-glare coating.
Yeah. I'm hearing that the X95J actually has pretty good anti-glare coating as well. So I think you're going down the right path. I think it should be bright enough for you. Sony has that unique color that is perfect for movie watching. I'm not going to dissuade you. Try it out in your room because really this is very personal to your room. I think it'll work. Try it. If it doesn't, the only upgrade you have in front of you is the QN98, which will put down that glare, but you lose Dolby Vision, and you may not like the way Samson does its colors if you're not going to get it calibrated. So it'd be the X95J, and if that doesn't work, save a couple of hundred and go with the QN98 because glare is the focus here.
So the X90J is going to be more expensive than the Q90A?
X95J, no, it won't. The Q98 will be more expensive. Yeah, I didn't mean to suggest. Yeah.
I think you said the opposite.
Okay, so yeah, if he could save a little bit more than the QN98. Okay.
Gotcha. And then I got you. So save more money in order to pay more. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I did look it up, and it does have the X wide angle and all that.
Great. Yeah, I think the X95J is going to be even with these tepid reviews from China, they didn't say it was a terrible TV. They were hoping for more. It's an upgrade to the X90J, and for many people, that's enough of an upgrade. So, I mean, I'm going to have one, so we'll see how it is compared to the QN98. Here we have the QN98 fan. Tell him the QN98 is better than both them TVs. Save him. Yeah, in a glary room, the QN98 is the best TV. But I think if his budget is X95J, it's not a good value alternative for a few $100s less. But yeah, if it doesn't work, don't think of anything else. You got to go with the QN98. It's the only TV that will make a difference for your glare if the X95J doesn't cut it.
Yeah, the top Samsungs normally have like incredible anti-reflective coating and the brightness. So you add those up. That was another disappointment with this one behind me.
Another one.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the QNED99, and if it comes down to me selecting this for $3,500 or getting a QN90A for $2,000 or whatever, $2,500. This doesn't do very good in a bright room. The anti-reflective coating, I mean, you can see it in the screen right behind me. You can see that reflection. In a Samsung, you can't, I mean, it crushes reflections. It's very good at knocking down reflections. And even the Sony, like the X950H last year was very good at that too. It wasn't quite as, it didn't have the same rainbow effect as badly, but it still was very good at knocking down reflections. Like at least twice as good at knocking down reflections as OLED with twice the brightness. So in a bright room, it dominates.
Agreed. And this is a concern that Hammer raises for many who are getting the OLED. For those concerned about the Venetian blind effect on the OLED, how often do you guys see it? So it's part of the issue is the new technology on the Evo panels from LG Display. Because it maybe it's slightly brighter, maybe it has something to do with the new chemistry, it's a little bit more obvious. So there's nothing you really can do about it. I mean, it is what it is. And Classy has some suggestions with its pixel refresh approach that may help, but ultimately, some panels are a little worse than others. So on one hand, it's a panel lottery, but then you could do some things about it with a pixel refresh that might alleviate some of that, but it will always be there just a little bit in some content. But to me, that's still worth the trade-off because the alternative is to get a non-OLED TV, which has much worse compromises. But you have an OLED, so I have the A90J. I haven't noticed it. So that's why for me it's a non-issue. But how about you, Brandon? You have both the LG and the Sony. Did you see the Venetian blind, the grid effect is another way to describe it?
Yeah, so I did have the C1 had a little bit, and it was then taken care of with a pixel refresh. And I thought that the one that I had it went away way better than the one that Classy had, because I know Classy had his. He has a G1. He did that. I saw the results. I did see that it was on like 100% bright screen versus the 40 or 4%, whatever it was when he took it. So it's like, it's easier to see when it's darker sometimes. When you get it really bright, sometimes it just looks more uniform. But then I think that he's getting the A80J now. Is that right?
Yes.
And I think that he still is a little bothered by the G1's uniformity. So it doesn't solve everything. It does help. And mine wasn't as bad as his and improved more on the C1. The A90J I had, I didn't try that. The 65-inch on the left side of the TV was all a different color. It was like split down the middle. The left side was darker. The right side was lighter. So when the TV was scrolling left and right, panning or whatever, you could see the color changing. And I was like, that's no dice for me. That one's going back. Then I found out a lot of people are having this problem. A lot of people then were saying, including Ninjician AV was the first person to tell me to do that right away. And I did that. And I didn't even have to do that on the A90J, the second one, or my 83-inch. No pixel refresh on either one of them. Both of them are fairly uniform. I have no issues with them. And that bothers me. So I would tell you if it did.
There you go. So definitely panel lottery and pixel refresh helps. But if you lose the lottery and pixel refresh doesn't help, make sure you buy from a retailer that allows you to easily swap it out. Or Value Electronics will do it for you. They will do the QC. And if you want them, they'll also calibrate for a fee, right? Both of them cost a fee. But sometimes it's easier to have someone else do it than to do it yourself. So, and that's where I get my TVs as well, because I do reviews. I don't want to deal with the issues with that. And this takes us to an earlier conversation we had. Mustafa, thanks for the question. Rumor has it Samsung is going with QD OLED next year. If this is true, and they manage to get 100% Rec 2020, what's next for OLED? So Mustafa, this is a good question because this whole 100% Rec 2020, to me, is a distraction. And this is why. Content creators, we're talking movies and film studios, they're not grading in that Rec 2020 space. And this is why. If you look at Pixar's Inside Out, right, and there are some scenes that are deeper into Rec 2020 than they are in the DCI space, and that's mostly in the greens, right, or maybe in the hot pinks or something like that. There's colors there that you may not care for even noticing because they don't always use all that color. So that's one. If the QD OLED goes deep into Rec 2020, but the content you watch does not, you will not notice the difference. Same movie on a QD OLED and a non-OLED. You can't add colors that was not there to begin with. So that's one. Secondly, additional color space in Rec 2020 isn't as big of a deal as raising the color volume, meaning you get extra bright. Does it hold on to that color? And OLED doesn't do that. At above 1,000 nits, OLED loses all of its color, right? It's mostly a white light. So I'd rather have 80% Rec 2020 at 1,500 nits, or even 75% Rec 2020 at 1,500 nits with a QD OLED. If they could do that, it would be amazing and would push LG OLED down a notch. So that's what we're looking for. Preserving color volume, even 75% Rec 2020, but at 1,500 nits, that's what I'm looking for in the QD OLEDs. Great question. Thanks for allowing me to give the context of what to expect for QD OLED. And here's a great question. I'm trying to pick, thanks Al, I'm trying to pick between the X95J and A80J, dark room, dim room, 900 hours a month of watching. No gaming. I need it to last 5 years. A80J. That's an OLED, right? Do you think of any other TV? I think 5 years it will last.
Dark room.
Dark room. Boom.
You know, I'd say go into like a show and see it, but I know that they can put the A90, like the X95J, they'll just put full screen HDR in there, which always is bright and it doesn't have any dark areas. So it's just like, oh, it's so bright and crazy. But if you go in and look at an A80J in a like showroom and they put it on those like very great HDR scenes, I mean, God, it's amazing. And I know that that's what it's made for too. So they're trying to show it at its best. But if I had to choose, it's the only way that I would choose the X95J is if I have a lot of like ambient light and a lot of windows that are going to be reflecting on the screen specifically, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with that. And you're not off angle. If you're off angle in that room, you're going to lose some of that color saturation too. So you might have to go with the Samson QN90 as well, to consider that in a bright, glary room. But yeah, in a dark, dim room, OLED. And it doesn't have to be A80J. Any OLED will actually end up looking more impactful than the X95J because it's not an OLED.
Boom. That's an easy one.
It is. And, you know, Bill wants to know, wow, how are you watching 900 hours a month?
That's pretty fun. Who said that? Oh,
yeah, the original question. He's like, yeah, he's going to watch 100 hours a month.
Well, because he posted that if you take 24 hours times 30 days, that's 720 hours. So how you get
right?
900 hours? He's got, yeah. Someone said he's time skipping. That's pretty funny.
That's it. He's going back.
He's a looper. He's a looper. He's fighting the Tomorrow War.
But he's going on 31 days only.
Have you ever seen that movie Edge of Tomorrow with where Tom Cruise repeats the same day over and over?
I love that movie.
That movie's so good, dude.
One of my favorite Tom Cruise movies.
I bought that movie instantly. I bought it, and Aiden watched it with me, and he loved it. He's like, I'll watch it again. Such a good movie. Emily Blunt's a badass. She's in all these movies where she's a badass, dude.
I just love how he keeps going back, getting better. Like, man,
on your feet, maggots. On your feet, maggot. Like, it's such a good movie. It's so good. Can
you imagine that you remember every time you get killed? How painful that is. Oh, not again.
Yeah. I don't want to ruin it for everyone, but definitely go see Edge of Tomorrow. If you haven't seen Edge of Tomorrow,
yes,
it's one of those movies that's like, absolutely. There's no way you can say no to that movie. Like, if you like action movies, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Without spoiling it for everyone, I have to tell you, my greatest fear after watching that movie was, what if I get stuck in a coma? Right?
Oh, yeah.
That is, oh my God.
Repeating the same day or whatever?
No, you can't get out of that day.
Oh, yeah.
Right? What if I'm knocked out in a coma?
Well, technically, you don't fall asleep then, right? I don't know. Who knows? No, yeah. My biggest fear is going to the beach and having one of those things come out of the sand.
But then we have this. Mustafa says it's a terrible movie.
Oh, it's not a terrible movie.
There you go.
Dude, honestly, it's got like an 8.4 on IMDb, and people are typically pretty hard on like action movies. It's a good movie.
And Mustafa wasn't the only one. Jeff Priest, sorry. And that's why we're all here. Like, some people love old school. Some people hate it. I happen to like old school. I think it's a great movie. And look, Don B says there's a sequel. It's that good. See, there you have it. If there's a sequel, it's got to be
Groundhog Day is better than Edge of Tomorrow. Like, I can't say Groundhog Day is not better. I mean, of course, Groundhog Day is amazing. It's also amazing.
How are you comparing Groundhog Day to
you want to hear another one? Well, because it's a day repeat movie. Right. Here's another one. Palm Springs, another fantastic movie. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
It's the same kind of scenario. And it's Andy Samberg, and he's living the same day over that he has to go to this wedding, and it's hilarious. So everybody else that likes these movies that are repeating, like Groundhog Day, Edge of Tomorrow, and Palm Springs, all three movies, all about repeating the same day, all great, all hilarious, great movies. I mean, Edge of Tomorrow is not hilarious, but it's still good.
Hey, Al wants to clarify. Just because the TV is running doesn't mean I'm up. I fall asleep to it, and yes, I have sleep on. So he might be running this TV all the time.
But there's not enough hours in a month is what there's not enough hours.
That's what they're saying, right?
We're saying let's see you're 180 hours over. Like, where are these extra 180 hours coming from? There's no hours.
Edge of Tomorrow, Palm Springs, right?
That's what we're saying.
That's what we're saying.
Don B saying there's not enough hours in the month to get 900 per month.
Wait, here's another one. What about Tomorrow War? Have you ever heard of that one?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. My son thought Tomorrow War was as good as Edge of Tomorrow. I'm like, no way. So that's why we watched it, because I'm like, oh, you think Tomorrow War is good? I'll show you this other movie. And I watched Edge of Tomorrow, and he's like, wow, that was really good.
Hey, this is a great comment. Brandon, what would you have done if Bill Murray had a cameo on Edge of Tomorrow? Like near the end, maybe, right?
Yeah, I love the cameo, and I love his cameo or his appearance in Zombieland. And then he has he's in the Zombieland 2 at the end too. And there's like a rumor going around. It's pretty funny. Bill Murray in Zombieland is pretty funny.
I missed that. I haven't even watched Zombieland yet, so now I'm curious.
Both of them are good, and Zombieland 2 it's got him at the end like signing books.
Hey, guess what? Did you see this? Bill Hubbard's son is named Aiden.
There you go.
He had fun with Edge of Tomorrow, dude.
There you go. Yeah,
Here
my
you
10-year-old
have it.
Aiden will watch any movie with me. He loves watching movies. We watch all kinds of old movies. I actually want
Me
to get him
too.
to watch The Matrix because my wife won't watch it with me. She's like,
Really?
nope, I don't want to watch it. I have no desire to watch it. She falls asleep during like the Born
It's you know what?
Identity
It's the
movies.
same with Total Recall. My son wants to watch it with
Yeah.
me. Wife and daughter, no interest in watching Total
Yeah.
Recall.
You know, it was another good one is the Blade Runner. I like the new Blade Runner. Was pretty good. It could have been a little better, but it was pretty good. I
thought
like
the
Dave
ending.
Bautista, and I
Yes, yeah, I like them.
I love anything that you put Harrison Ford in. I'm down with.
So keep it classy. To add to the Samsung QD OLED expectations, he doesn't have high hopes, especially with size and price. I don't think it will live up to the hype. I agree, classy. It's really hard to live up to people's expectations of something. Give everyone context. The number one complaint that Samsung itself had of QD OLED, right? This is Samsung Electronics. They were criticizing QD OLED from Samsung Display. It was not getting bright enough. Hey, if Samsung is saying something's not bright enough, you got a problem. And that's why it's been out of the market until recently. But even then, maybe they're only putting out QD OLED just to put it out. So I don't have high hopes, but we do have expectations. So we'll see what happens.
I don't want to keep going down this movie road all day, but
Go for it.
People are talking about the Tomorrow War, and it was like kind of like a bug hunt, like Starship Troopers, which it was. But the thing is the actual movie is what makes it, or the story is what makes it good or bad. Like the Tomorrow War story, not so good. And the ending was really weird. It like turned into like Inception, where they're like in an ice area trying to fight the bad guys, and it was weird. But the other movie that I disliked, what was that movie by Zack Snyder that came out recently? That was like
was
on
it a
Netflix?
reboot? Oh, the zombie one, right? The Army of the Dead. Army of the Dead.
Man, did that
terrible.
Story suck. That
story
was
cinematography
awful.
Was terrible with that weird shallow field of view. I didn't like it.
I don't like the way Zack Snyder does. I mean, I like the 3-4 or the 4-3. What was it? His as a cut of the second cut of the Justice League.
Yeah,
much
I
better.
Like it. Yeah,
much better. But it was hard to see a lot of that. And man, that was hard to see. Some of that was so dark. He does a lot of really dark movies. They're hard to see. But yeah, that zombie movie was terrible. And so same thing with this Tomorrow War. Not a big fan of the story. It lost me. I didn't think Chris Pratt was the problem. I think Chris Pratt's awesome if you put him in the right movie. I think he's great as Star-Lord. He's fantastic in Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers. But, just it is what it is. Funny movies. I like The Hobbit too, by the way. Bill Hubbard and IRL. I like The Hobbit.
Now, we helped Med from Thurins choose the A90J over the A80J. He wanted to let us know that what made him pick the A90J over the A80J is the design, something we rarely talk about. And yes, that is
What
true.
About the design? Tell me what he likes about the design.
Yeah, what is it about the design that you like? I rarely talk about it because I don't notice it. Once the TV's on, the lights are off. But he brings up a good point. To many people, that's important. Now, the two things about design I do notice is how thin the bezel is and how thin the TV is and the TV stand. I think those things are important. And in my opinion, Samsung has the best stands out there. I just love how they do their stands. They put a lot of effort into their stands and they're very stable. And Sony's okay. This year, I think it's been better than before. And I do love how Samsung focuses on getting their TVs thinner and thinner and thinner. I mean, if you could believe it, the LCD TVs from Samsung are thinner than OLED TVs. If you take the thickest part of the OLED and the thickest part of a Samsung QNED99, the QNED is actually thinner. So it's just something to keep in mind. But I appreciate what Samsung does with their design for sure. And well, you have the frame. How do you like the design of the frame?
I mean, the design's awesome. It's just the TV could be. I wish it was like, I wish it could get to like almost 1,000 nits HDR. It would be great if they could just. I mean, I don't see any reason why they can't pump the nits on that, right? Like, couldn't you make that an IPS panel? Like, nobody really cares what a picture frame looks like off angle. Like, who cares? I mean, pump that up. If you got the Samsung frame up to the QN85A level, I think that'd be dope because it would be like so much of a better experience. But that's just an edge lit TV, I'd be fine. Can you do edge lit and get that kind of contrast or brightness?
In a dark room, no, but if it's SDR content, yeah. I see it with I thought the X80J looked great in some content. You couldn't tell it was edge lit. And that's why
you get that to 700-800 nits or not?
things start to happen if you get it too bright, and it has to be a VA panel. IPS edge lit, I don't think is very good.
Well, it's a VA. It's just that I wonder, like, I don't necessarily know if on the frame if you need that, if you need a bunch of local dimming zones on a frame. But the whole point is that I wish it was brighter. But to that last question, quick before we get this one, the A90J, I actually like the A80J because it's a lighter TV. So that's, for me, it's like, I don't know, that nobody moves their TVs around like I do, so that's not that big a deal. But I kind of like the square back. The A90J has that angled back that kind of looks like the traditional Bravia LED look, which is cool. They definitely are way different. I know in my A90J versus A80J video, I point out all the things he was talking about. I point out every single difference physically between those two TVs. So check out my A80J versus A90J review. I do all that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, right. And you can tell that Brandon loved that review, right? He totally dug into it as opposed to the QNED99.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. If I had to do a QNED99 comparison video, I would torch it for some. You know what? I'm thinking I might get like the 5 worst thing video out of this QNED. That might be what I do. Maybe I'll do that.
I love BatTech's plot hole here. I haven't seen the Tomorrow War, but if you can freaking time travel, why don't you go back even further? Instead of getting people to help fight your war, just go back and stop the war from happening. Yeah, well, I agree, right?
Maybe you just ruined the whole movie, BatTech, and you didn't even know it. Because maybe that's kind of what they do. Prevent the war before it happens is not. It's kind of part of what they do.
Who saw Infinity? Mustafa asks. I saw a review on IMDb saying it's like the Matrix made by the Kardashians. That doesn't sound like a high recommendation.
What is Infinite? Let me see what that is. I've contemplated making my own movie review channel because I absolutely love movies. The problem is that those guys that do movie reviews are really good. Like they know, they find all these Easter eggs in the movies, and I'm like, damn, that's way beyond me. I would be again like that jack of all trades, master of none, where I would be like, here's my take on the movie, but I wouldn't be able to back it up with like 8 billion little like scenes like some of those guys do. And I'm like, I love watching people tear movies apart. It's pretty cool.
Me too.
Here it is. Infinite.
Phil82 asks, is it?
Go ahead.
Okay, real quick question. Phil82, what's the better setup? Xbox X with G1 or PS5 with A90J? Ooh. Well, if I had the PS5 with an A90J, I'd be a happy man. If I had the Series X with a G1, it's because I'm confident that I'm pushing the limits of console performance, because I'm thinking to myself, wow, I got Dolby Vision, 4K 120, G1's doing this, and it's got VRR working. And so I'm all wrapped up in the specs. But if it comes down to gameplay, I think either one's fine. I'd be completely happy with the PS5 A90J, which is an excuse to get the A90J. That's why I would choose the PS5 A90J. What would you choose, Brandon?
Well, also, he had a question earlier about what our favorite games are for each. So do you have a favorite game with each of those?
So it's kind of a cop-out. For the Sony, I really like Miles Morales, but that's exclusive to the Sony. But then on both of those, I find myself playing Dirt 5 over and over because I just love the lighting and the action and the HDR effect. So I'm waiting for a chance to play the next generation sequel to Overwatch on these. That'll be my next. I'm just waiting for Overwatch to come out with a sequel to play it on these, because I don't like jumping games. I just like to dig into a game and kind of stay on it for a while. So I'm kind of still stuck on those few games. So I'm not a really good game reviewer kind of guy, but that's my response. How about you?
And for me, as far as which one of these, I just, I'm not real hard to please on these games. I like the PS5. I have an A90J. I don't care about VRR. I don't play any games that are like going to be that. It's, I've seen frame like tearing on my, Premiere when I'm editing videos. I'm like, oh, there's frame tearing, but I've never seen it on a game before. So I don't really know if I need that, but and I like the A90J better than the G1, and I'm equal on the two systems. I'm fine with either. I don't play I like playing what's that game where you're in a car and you kick a soccer ball around? What's that? Do you remember that game?
Oh yeah, my son loves that game.
I play that game. I love that game.
Rocket League?
Rocket League. I love Rocket League on the Xbox. Yeah. And on the PS5, we play Sackboy, and I like playing Dirt 5. I love Dirt 5 on Xbox too. It's fun, and we have Forza Horizon 4 too. So like racing games, and I'll play Madden versus anybody. I love Madden and all those kind of basketball 2K21, baseball games, a lot of sports games. So that's what I like to play.
Which TV was it that you had fall over? Was it the A80J?
Yeah, the A80J.
There you go. So keep it classy
it's
once
so
to
light,
remind
dude.
everyone, right?
Oh
Yeah,
my God, he did.
be
He
careful.
said he almost lost it too, or he had his fall. Because the thing is normally on these TVs, there's stuff at the bottom that keeps the TV upright. And I had my TV sitting there for 2 days, perfectly fine with the lid on. And as soon as I took the lid off, the weight of the box was holding it down. So when I took the top of the box off, it just tipped it right over. And I even put my foot on the back plastic, the back styrofoam, and it didn't hold. It's just because the TV's so light, and because the A90J is heavier, it just holds it down. And then you got the C1 OLED, which has the 30-pound stand in the bottom. So that thing's not going anywhere, And so I've never had a TV go so fast, so forward like that. It just immediately fell forward. It was crazy.
Yeah. Now, Aaron has a suggestion. You have to put popsicle sticks in the back part so it doesn't lean back the 5 degrees. Did you find that to be an issue on the A80J?
They both lean back just a touch. I mean, my A90J leaned back a little bit too. The 83 definitely leaned back. Sometimes it's just the way that you put the feet on too. Like you got to lay it down and try to put the feet on even a little tighter. Sometimes if you have the bottom of the foot not kicked in all the way, you think that the screws are in right. And then it doesn't work. Although these ones, I'm sorry, the A90, let me think. The A80J actually goes inside the TV. So I believe he's right there because you can't manipulate those. I believe that it's just you slide them in like the A8H so that that may just be the way it is. So I'd be careful tipping your TV forward though, because then you're starting to play with fire.
That's worse. Yeah.
If you tip it forward and it goes a little bit beyond, like I said, the TV's so light, man, you don't want that to go forward and fall, man.
And here's a clarification and correction by Jason. Thanks for this. Sony website says the X80J is direct lit, not edge lit. Well, that's why it looks so good then. So the X80J 50-inch, I have to emphasize, it's a VA panel, and I think it looks great relative to its competition. It's $700, but for that budget, 50 inches, that would be my choice for most people. The Samsung would be my choice for HDR on the price range, but I just think the color looks phenomenal on the X80J.
Let me ask you then, because you're okay. So direct lit A80J only at the 50-inch. So bigger, it's IPS?
Yes, and smaller is IPS.
Okay. Then you said there's also X85J, right?
It's all VA except it's a 120 hertz native panel.
Right. That's and that one is no dimming zones, right?
It's just like the X80J in every way. It's also direct lit, but it has a 120 hertz panel and it's all VA.
Man, that one might be a sweet spot for a lot of people because VA, edge lit. I know you, me, and Classy are all not big fans of.
Oh no, direct lit, not edge lit. It's direct lit.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. Sorry, we're all just the dimming zones bother us.
No dimming zones. Right.
Man, I might get an X85J just to review it. Then I don't know.
Well, here's the best part. Not a lot of people know it comes in 85 inches.
Yeah.
85
Is that the new
inches.
Big? That might be the new one to get.
That's X85J. So it's an 85 inch. It's the only 120 hertz panel VA 85 inch that doesn't have dimming zones. Because if you go to the TCL at a similar price range, it's got dimming zones, and that would be the one that you had, the 85 XL.
Yeah, and no good there. But I would
no bueno.
I mean, honestly, I'd rather have the mini LED 6 series than I'd have that the 745 because the dimming zones were just massive on that TV. They were huge. 192 for an 85-inch TV.
Yep, agreed.
It's crazy.
And Phil just wants to thank you for answering his game question.
He's funny. He's like, oh yeah, I'll subscribe to your channel again until I tell him that I'm not going to give him my 83-inch A90J, and then he's going to unsubscribe again.
And okay, here we go. Hey, Michael, thanks for coming by. Thomas Levin says, I see 92% He-Man in a dark room. Is A80J a good choice? Thomas, A80J is almost always the right answer in a dark room.
Yeah.
Unless you add gaming, then it becomes the LG G1 or C1. But otherwise, how can A80J be the wrong choice?
Honestly, I think that's my favorite TV of the year, A80J. It's just because it's just does a little everything. It does a little everything. It's just really good.
And something for everyone to keep in mind, the 77-inch A80J is the best of the bunch because you have the new Evo panel, right? The latest LG OLED panel, whereas the smaller sizes is a mixed bag of old and new panels. So they have to hold back the smaller sizes. They don't let the XR processor really stretch its legs. The 77-inch, they will. And so it ends up outperforming the G1 on movie content. And this is why Classy is swapping his G1 77-inch for the A80J. It's that good.
You see?
So I'm sure.
And that's a gamer who is choosing lack of VRR over the G1 and it's all of its gaming glory because he liked the A80J is a good TV, It
is, yeah.
And and while we were talking about that, BatTech says I need 10,000 dimming zones to be happy. And I'll tell him I need 0 dimming zones to be happy. I don't want any dimming zones. None, period. OLED or backlit or edge lit. Give me my KS8000. I'll put that back in my bedroom,
This is a great point of view. I think you're the first to declare that, right? So excellent. I'm glad. Will either of us do a video on our top 5 worst TVs to buy this year? Not to buy. Okay. Right now, I hope Vizio's not watching, but it starts and ends with Vizio. Because
we always do that, though.
I know. Vizio hates us, but I can't help it.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, listen, it's not our problem. We're not the ones making the TVs, right?
Quality control, smart cast. Where do we begin? And if all of that works,
TVs just don't even work. I turn them on and they don't even work. I'm like, I have to install a TV, then I got to take it back because it doesn't even turn on. It pisses me off.
Hey, wait, Michael is getting something. Maybe he's getting.
I think the X95J or the X85J. He's talking. I think he's talking about
the A80J, right? The A80J or 85J. Hey, it's a great. Like we said, it's a VA panel. It's direct lit. It is the most basic TV you can get. I think it's perfect for SDR. It's got great motion, and it comes in an 85-inch size.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's talking A80J. You're right. My bad. Sorry about that.
Well, hey,
but
still, who doesn't want that?
I saw people talking about that other thing too, so that's why.
And predictions, VRR. Okay, so quick update. We all know Sony is doubling down. They will release the VRR update for all of their X90J, X95J, X900H in December of this year. So in another 4 months or so, we're going to see VRR. And now the question is it going to be crappy VRR? Is it going to be a bad or mediocre VRR? My prediction is that it is. Nothing against Sony, but it's a first generation VRR. And I have yet to see any TV get it right in the first generation. That includes Samsung, even LG. This is LG's 3rd generation of VRR. It's great now. Sony's first. I don't think they could figure it out even with MediaTek's help. So that's my prediction. I hope to be wrong because we will all benefit if I'm wrong. But it's just statistically, it's really hard to get it right. Literally your first time out. And this is Sony's first time out. That's just what it is.
And sorry, I want to rep for Keep It Classy. He did tell us he is getting the 48-inch C1 too. So he's not just throwing away the G1 because of the lack of. I mean, the G1's great, but he's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. 77-inch A80J for movies, smaller LG C1 for gaming, and I'm actually getting a 48-inch C1 as well. I'm getting that. So.
Well, and so this goes to what we always say, right? Every TV has a purpose. They were designed for something specific. Don't force a square peg into a round hole. The LG C or G was designed to optimize the best gaming experience. Okay, great, you got it. But if you want the best movie experience, you go with a Sony. And if you want both, get 2 TVs. And if you get one and not the other, you're having a compromise. Accept it. It's okay, right?
Yeah, it does bother me that Sony they aren't vertically integrated. It does bother me that we're waiting on everything from Sony.
Well, it bothers me that they have a PlayStation 5. They can't figure out VRR.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. This is what you do.
They're outsourcing too much stuff, man.
Right. LG doesn't have a console, and they're getting their TVs to work almost as well as their gaming monitors. That's pretty awesome.
I think they've just been working on this for their game. I mean, their connectivity. And again, I'm not a big gamer, but it's like their connectivity is just always been fantastic for years. Just everything. You put an HDMI 1 point, the first generation HDMI, then the next generation. As soon as eARC came out, it started, or it's regular ARC. As soon as eARC, it's like every time LG is like connect, perfect. And I even like Samsung soundbars with LG TVs 10 years ago, it worked. They were the first one to have the volume working up and down, all this stuff. It just always works with LG first.
What happened?
Except these QNED TVs behind me. No, I'm just
speaking of your long history with TVs, now many of you know Brandon's called Be the Installer because he actually installs TVs for a living. So he sees all of these TVs. This takes us to Bat Tech's question. In your history of installing TVs, did you ever test the Sony Z9D? Because that may have been an LCD TV that you would have loved. Do you remember that TV?
I never did. I don't get that many TV's tough because a lot of people are talking like the Lamborghini guy still won't buy the A90J. So I go into huge houses and every one of them's like a crappy Toshiba TV or something, or
the Fire TV.
It's rare that I go to someone's house that's nice and they're buying a nice TV. I'm like, come on, dude, will you guys just buy something decent here? Let's go.
You're not the only one. Many of you know Brian, Whisper Status Brian. He lives in Connecticut, right? He lives in a very nice part. We're talking, he's around all these hedge funders, right? He'll go by their house or whatever. He's like, I see a Ferrari parked in the front, and the guy's like, do you know a TV I can get for really cheap? He's like, dude, you can get a $10,000 TV, not even think twice. And you're asking me for a deal on a TV? Like, give Robert a call to give you a deal? Like, dude, this doesn't make any sense, but that's what they do, right? Ferrari in the front, TCL in the back.
Yep. And I'll go one step further. It not only is it frustrating when you're talking to someone, but when you're driving in a really nice neighborhood and all the boxes out by the thing are like, it's like the Samsung Q60T or the Samsung TU7000, or it's even like the UHD 6950, where it's like their lowest end crystal UHD TV, and they're getting it in an 85-inch. And it's like, why the hell are you wasting that money on a TV that can't even get HDR? It's like, it's like just terrible. Like, don't do it.
I know.
But people do that. And I get asked to come install it. And then I install a TV like outside this guy's house in his backyard, $3 million house. He wants a TV put up, right? I install it. And then he's like, boom, I can't see anything. I'm like, yeah, because you bought a $300 TV, dude. Like spend $1,000 and get a decent TV, and then you can see it outside.
Yeah, can you imagine if you got a terrace? You'd be like, wow, it looks so great. It's like, what?
It's like the worst TV ever. Yeah, these guys are having a good time too, telling me that I need to open up my own shop and give away TVs. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I'll be the first in line to throw TVs into your shop, man. Yeah, I'm in the same position you are.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Phil has a great question because a lot of people are thinking the same thing. Why doesn't Sony get tech from LG for their VRR? And that's because LG is not selling that chip. Now, LG and Samsung are in the chip making business, but they're making chip for themselves. And Samsung does have a foundry to make chips for other people. Unfortunately, LG is not doing that. But if it did, you're right. I think LG could make mucho bucks competing with MediaTek on this very thing. So yeah, why not, LG? Come on, spin off your chip making prowess and sell some to Sony.
Funny.
And Don has a TV for a bright room and an A80J for a dark room, as we all should.
There you go. But I can't see. I can't do it. I've been trying to do it. I've been trying to pull the trigger on an LED TV. That's why I have the QNED behind me. I've been trying to pull the trigger on getting that bright TV, and I have not been happy with the TV for a bright room since the KS8000. I just haven't. The combination of HDR highlights, anti-reflective coating, and the lack of dimming zones in that TV. That's why I have it.
Hey, wait. Before we get to this old one, Keep It Classy has a comment above. So let me look for that. Sorry, missed it, Classy. Let's see here. Something's happening in August. And is he doing comparison? Here we go. Found it.
I don't know how far he went up. There he goes.
Next month, I'm doing X85J versus Q78. Surprised. Q78 is VA, 120 hertz. Both are 550 nit range.
What size? Is that 65-inch?
Yeah.
I don't know what size. What's funny is I'd be interested. That's great, Classy, good stuff. I'd be interested in like talking to you because those two TVs, and then we can talk about the Samsung frame, because not that I care if people like the Samsung frame or not, but I have a lot of people that ask me about the frame, and it's in that, it's the same thing. VA, 120 hertz, 550 nit range, all the same thing. So, you know, the Q70A has been that TV that typically is just good enough for people in HDR settings. You know, like it's like, I'm like, okay, I guess I can see, or for mostly for SDR. I'm like, okay, that's a good cable to be watching. No local dimming. You got like, you know, you have, it's not very good anti-reflective coating, but it's going to do the trick. It's better than a lot of these TU7000 TVs or whatever. So I'd be interested to find out how he likes these and what he thinks, and then maybe compare it to the frame that I have and go.
Let me predict, based on our history with Samsung, he's going to love the X85J out of the box, and he's going to have to calibrate the hell out of the Q70A, and then he'll get it very close, but I think the Q70A will end up not being as impactful. Without dimming zones, Samsung is out of its element, in my opinion. Samsung's great. All of their resources went to the dimming zone algorithm, but you take that away and suddenly you're in Sony's element. This is what Sony does. SDR content. I really think the X85J will be the clearly superior TV out of the box. Now, we know that Classy can calibrate both of these TVs to death. I think once the Q70A is calibrated, it'll be closer. But at this budget, without calibration, do you think Samsung has a chance, Brandon?
Sorry, I kind of missed part of that. You think Samsung has a chance of being better?
Being as good as the X85 out of the box before Classy gets his little.
I don't know. I feel like every time you calibrate a Samsung, it looks worse, in my opinion. Afterwards, I don't know. Honestly, that's like the only thing I could say. I'm like, you put them in these modes, and I'm like, I don't know. It looks too warm for me. It looks like it's orange. Like, I don't know. And again, I'm not a calibrator, so Classy can comment on that, and everyone can say I'm an idiot for it because I don't know what I'm talking about. But the point is Samsung just looks too warm when they calibrate it. But right. I think both of those TVs are right. I definitely think the X85J will probably be the better TV there. That'd be my opinion, but we'll see.
Right. And Hammer has a great comment. This is an ongoing issue with LG OLED. What are the chances that LG fixes the VRR flicker on their 2022 OLEDs? So it goes to the core technology of LG Display. LG Display OLEDs, this is shared by all the OLED TV makers. Sony, Philips, Panasonic, it doesn't matter. Whatever LG Display puts out, they buy it. And if there's an issue with the VRR that is because it's an OLED technology, it will probably be passed on. The question is whether in 2022, LG Display has addressed this and shares that fix with the processor so that others can address it as well, whether it's LG Electronics or Sony, whoever. I don't know. I'm hearing that this may be a limitation of OLEDs. The way OLEDs are set up, they cannot fine-tune that near black impulse to avoid the flicker. And eventually they'll get there, I'm sure. Whether it's in 2022 is a different matter. So the chances, in my opinion, if anyone's going to fix it, it's going to be LG because that's what they do. But whether they'll fix it in 2022, I'm going to say no, because based on my reading, OLED has a hard time with this near low electricity impulse. They have a hard time with it. So that's my prediction, though. Take that with a grain of salt.
Oh, we will.
And thank you for being here, CMS. Thanks, guys. It's nice to be here for the live stream. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hey, have a good weekend, CMS. It's a long weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say, we should probably wrap it up here. I got to get going.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
2 straight hours. We're killing it. I appreciate everyone coming on, man. You obviously say what you want to say here in a second. I was going to quickly say, I do want to get the fantasy football, pass the remote fantasy football league set up. So I'll do that.
Post it on the community channel. Yeah, everyone who hasn't subscribed yet, please subscribe so you can get the notice of any fantasy football updates.
Yeah, we'll put it on the community, and we'll have to probably put a couple people together or something if there's a lot of interest. Maybe we'll put like one viewer with one person, like from our group of people that are on these channels with us. Like, maybe we give some, like, who isn't very good at fantasy football? Is it like
Classy?
So we could put like the best viewer, like the viewer that knows the most, with classy. And then we can put like, you know, like, I don't know how do you do a lot of fantasy football or not?
I used to do a lot, and
okay,
I
so
didn't
you know what you're doing.
I know the concept.
Right.
But it's been a while, so I don't have to.
Well, then we'll put you with the young buck, so that like maybe someone that's on the ball recently. So we'll get you someone, dude. And I'll go with some. I'm pretty good at it, but you know, it's still.
I used to. I mean, I learned fantasy the hard way with some dollars at stake, so I really dug into it. But man, it was like. It was those just game per game fantasy, right? Just to get a feel at, I got my ass kicked bad. It's
good to have a community do it, because like these, like people that are already like, we're watching these, then each week we can talk shit about it on our live streams.
Yep. It's gonna be fun regardless, right?
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, yeah, I'll tell people I copped out, and I did, you know, FOMO convinced me to do the QNED review. I'm probably going to do a QNED 5 worst things, or maybe just an LCD 5 worst things. I do have a cool OLED video coming out soon in the next couple of weeks. I'll tell you more about that eventually. But that's what I got going on. What about you, man? You got what did you launch today or yesterday?
You know, I'm still editing my video, but it's a buying guide that is simplified with no buzzwords, no tech talk, no nits, no HDR. My attempt at helping people buy the right TV at any price without mentioning things like Dolby Vision, nits, or peak brightness. So let's see how well I succeed. But for many people, they don't want to watch 100 YouTube videos. Literally, you have to watch almost 100 YouTube TV reviews to get a feel for it. If they only want to watch one video to buy the right TV, I'm hoping that's the one. So we'll see how well that is. Now, it may be a little bit dumbed down for our audience here, but there's a lot of people out there that's got $3,000 burning in their pocket, and then they look at the selection like, oh my God, and they might not even buy a TV because it's like, oh, what do I choose? So, and we're going to be, both of us are going to be at the shootout in about a month, right? So I'm really looking forward to that. And Brian, Whisper Status, he was able to get time off for that weekend. He's going to party with us in the hotel. He just told me he's going to be at the hotel with us. Yeah, but you guys are staying up there.
You got to come down and come down to the city.
Dude, we are.
You got to come down to the city.
We're staying down. We're staying at the same hotel you and Shauna are.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
What's Classy going to do? Is Classy coming or not?
No, he has to stay with family.
He'll come down and see us. He'll come down.
Come on, Classy. Come on down to the Courtyard Marriott downtown New York City.
Yeah, I got it.
Everyone else who's in New York City, come on down. This is the shootout. You might not make it to the shootout, but we can always have a drink and eat or whatever. So we'll be in New York City, Courtyard Marriott. Was it 3rd Street somewhere? September 11, 12, 13, something like that. That weekend.
42nd and Madison or something.
Yeah, something like that, right? Yeah, it's around there.
It's down by Grand Central. But
there you go.
But yeah, and I'm gonna be in New York right now. I'm going in 10 days to New York, and then I'm gonna be going to Cedia. And then the shootouts after that. So there's gonna be 3 East Coast trips for me. Damn.
Fun, yeah. It's going to be great. I think we'll all like it. And we're going to do some concurrent live streams so you guys can see what's like behind the scenes. We're just going to have a lot of fun, right?
Well, I'll be on our phones next to each other, like live streaming on our phones. It'll probably be poor quality, but
a lot of alcohol will be had. We'll be slurring our words, but we'll have a good time. And so I'm going to answer this last question before we wrap up, because I think this is an important one. A lot of people want to know, is the A1 worth it? This is the entry-level OLED from LG. And Preston's comment is spot on. A1 is overpriced. For what you're getting, get the LG C10 instead. That's last year's model. It is better in every way. And so I think that's it.
The only way I could say get the A1 is if it went way down in price and you're just watching for like cable, like cable TV, news watching, you want an OLED 60 hertz panel, screw it. If it's like $1,000, you know what I mean? Then maybe get it.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, and this last thought, thank you, Griffin, for the support. So we are wrapping up today's very long live stream. We have a live stream at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. It will be on this channel, but sometimes we're hopping on other people's channels as well. So we're here to answer your questions. Any questions about TVs, let us know. Until next time, pass the remote. Brandon, you want to say anything before we head out?
Remote drop. No, that's it. See you guys.
All
Thanks.
right. See you guys.